What's up, everybody? GameFace is back. We're live for GameFace episode 421 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Alongside me to do it, thankfully, today he's back. It is Matt Keil. How are you doing, Matt?
All right.
Feeling better?
Yeah, just some back issues.
Yeah.
That have persisted for 18 years now.
Really? It's been 18 years?
In May, yeah. That my car crash is almost old enough to graduate from high school.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, about 18 years ago, Matt got in a really bad car accident with another one of our friends. Mm-hmm. Somebody just ran through a red light, right?
No, it was a stop sign. We were driving. We're coming. It was like 1:30 in the morning. We're coming home from a bad movie night, and we're driving down Beverly. No, it wasn't an intersection with a stop sign on Beverly, but an Escalade ran a cross-street stop sign at 30 miles an hour, they think, and just plowed through the front. I mean, if it had been 1 foot back, it would have killed Paul, probably.
Yeah.
And I just remember we're driving down the street and talking, and suddenly Paul said, "Oh my God," in a tone of voice I'd never heard him use before. And I was like, why is he saying it like that? And all of a sudden there was an Escalade halfway through my hood. I remember the woman's white blouse with the lace trim. And then I woke up.
Wow.
And if I ever see that fucking blouse again, I will know it. Believe you me. And they ran. Like every other person who's ever hit me in LA, they drove off.
Yeah.
And these two guys in a red convertible pulled up after I woke up. This is how fucking movie brain I am. I woke up and I smelled the gunpowder from the airbags. Because I think that's what knocked me out was the airbag hitting me in the face.
You, yeah.
And I woke up and my first thought was the car's going to explode.
Because it smelled the gunpowder.
Because it smelled like gunpowder.
Yeah.
And I look over at Paul, and Paul's like laying there with his eyes open like that. I'm like, fuck, Paul's dead. and
he was laying there with his eyes open?
Yeah, because he'd been hit so hard.
That'll scare you,
man.
He
hit his head on the A-frame, on the frame
of the
car. Because it was a sideways impact.
Yeah.
And then he started making noises like a zombie, and I'm like, oh, he's alive.
Hey,
he's okay.
gosh. Oh, man.
I'm like, Paul, we got to get out of the car. The car's going to blow up. So I got out and all that. And so, you know.
You've had problems ever since with your back.
Yeah, so it hit us like from the side, went through the hood, the front of the car is gone, basically. Yeah. And
you were driving, what, an RX-8?
RX-8.
Yeah.
It was an RX-8. And I got a new one, a replacement RX-8.
Right,
because I'm like, hey, it took an Escalade. And I know it was an Escalade because the whole front of the grill was left at the scene.
Oh, really?
And they drove back the other direction, passed again, and I remember thinking, get the license plate, and I looked, and there was no license plate.
Oh my god!
So the cops think it was stolen from a dealership or something, and just that they were just driving fast to get away.
Crazy.
And happened to, if we had left 2 seconds earlier or later,
yeah,
we would have missed.
It's
it would have missed
crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, it hit me from the side, and I went sideways and forward, and the seatbelt buckle dug into the side, like down there. And my the lower back has never been quite the same.
Yeah.
And it can get sore back here and down here, and it wraps around the front, and it makes me nauseous. And and I am a very catastrophic thinker, as everybody in my family is. And so in my head, I'm like, is it my liver? Is it my pancreas? Automatically, I'm just like, pancreatic cancer, going to be dead by July. You know, and it just spirals. So I had a really bad night with it on Monday night last night. So I'm like, you know what? I got to go figure this out.
Yeah.
And I did, and they found absolutely nothing wrong with me. They did a CT scan and everything is
that's good.
Everything's great. I'm very healthy, but they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you.
And that does freak you out a little bit.
But I feel much better now that I'm not afraid it's going to kill me, and I can kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
And I don't. The other thing is, like, it's been going on for a few weeks, but I don't notice it when I'm around other people. So a lot of it has to be psychosomatic.
Yeah, a little bit of it for sure.
So they gave me a lot of drugs, and the muscle relaxant knocked it out pretty well. And it's still a little. I can feel a little twinge there. The thing about it that confused them is it doesn't impede my movement.
That is
like
odd,
I can move around just fine. I can lift stuff. I can walk. It just is this constant sort of weight.
Yeah.
Like this sort of soreness back there that will not quite leave you alone.
Yeah.
And it's annoying. And my dad had the same kind of he had disc herniations and sciatica problems and stuff. And
genetics.
It made him real mean. And there's a whole every time I get some kind of thing about go see a spine specialist, I always have the moment of and he was a big fan of Vicodin and all these painkillers. And it was I have the Luke Skywalker looking down at his black gloved hand moment sometimes where I was like, can't let that happen.
Luna won't let that happen.
But yeah, so that was my 9-hour odyssey. If you need to go to the emergency room in LA,
good luck.
That's your whole day.
It is.
Like that's really all you're gonna do, unless you are actually dying.
Yeah,
They'll get you.
They'll get you in then, but otherwise you're sitting out there for a while. Yeah. Well, I've had back problems too this whole year. They haven't gone away. They've gotten better, but both of us have had back problems now in 2025.
I will say it started on the 21st of January.
Oddly enough.
And if it's driven by anxiety, maybe
that might have something to do with it.
It was quite a January for worrying about things. Between fires.
And February's kind of been the same, so here we are. But anyway, we're back. Hope you guys missed us last week. Definitely bummed to not do an episode, but obviously Matt had some serious stuff going on. My back has also been all jacked up this entire year. And I keep waiting for it to feel better. It'll feel better, and then like 2 days later, it'll go right back to the way it was. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, we are here to do GameFace episode 421. We have a great show for you guys today. A couple things before we get going. Bring up our housekeeping.
Pharaoh Doll says about four. The last time she was in an ER in LA, it was 13 hours. About 4 of them was waiting for them to let me leave. That was also true of me. Where like the doctor like kind of talked to me and said, "Okay, I'm gonna let you go. Like I don't, here's some prescription." And I'm like, it was like almost an hour and a half before I could leave. And the reason I couldn't leave is because I still had the IV in my arm.
Yeah.
And I was like leaning out, like, can someone unhook me so I can go home?
Yeah.
And it just took forever. Like they're so understaffed.
I walked out when I was having health problems a few years ago. Same thing happened to me. It was the middle of the night, like 4 or 5 in the morning. I was exhausted. I'm like, I want to go home. Mm-hmm. Nobody would show up. I literally just got up and left. Mm-hmm. And then they called me on my phone and they said that they classified me as like some acronym MNO, meaning like I got up and left without the doctor saying it was okay to leave. And I was like, I don't care. And they're like, it's going to be on your record unless you come back. I'm like, I don't care. And I just went home and went to bed because nobody showed up. Yeah. I was laying there in that room for like 3 or 4 hours. I'm like, what am I doing here? So anyway.
Yeah. And it was funny because I'm sitting there for so long. I was hearing all the chatter.
All the other combos.
And also the nurses talking to each other. I heard a bunch of gossip about a couple people who were like, maybe we're dating, but weren't dating, but they shouldn't be dating because, oh my God. Uh-huh. And then like, a whole thing where they kept getting contradictory orders from different supervisors, and they're like, "Why are there 3 supervisors and there's only 4 of us?" And I'm like, it's amazing that the same problems exist in every sort of hierarchy of any kind of organization. Because I'm like,
incompetence.
Those are the same complaints we would have in production.
It's true.
Well,
it's absolutely true. So anyway, we're here for GameFace episode 421. We are a video game podcast and not a back health podcast. Although we're getting to the age where it might be slowly transitioning over to this new genre, Matt and I. But hopefully you guys missed us. We're back for another episode. Yeah. A couple things before we get going today, and we do have a really good show for you guys today. Matt, the first thing I would say is I seriously think that you've already won our fantasy league. Oh, yeah. I really think you have. Avowed came out. It's at like a 7.9. That's my game. Lost Records came out. The first reviews for that is at like a 7.3. Meanwhile, your 10th pick is like a 9 or something like that.
Is Kingdom Come still that high?
Yeah. Yeah. It's still like right around an 8.99.
Disagree.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that game. Yeah, I'm a little shocked at some of the review scores for that game, having now played it myself.
I mean, Civ was mine, and that's only like a 7.
Yeah.
7.9 or something.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think my only chance is if you have a game.
I mean, I definitely got the best 10th pick of all time, but we're going to see. I mean, we don't know if GTA 6 will make it. Although I think my first alternate is pretty solid.
I don't want your first alternate to count.
Yeah.
I really don't. You did a really good job picking your team.
Let's see what happens, Adam Fall. I might need you.
And then as you guys know, we've changed the show a bit. We don't do our long-form reviews or our long-form previews. We do our shorter previews in the show still, but the long-form previews we don't. And so after we do our podcast today, we will be recording live reviews for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, for Civilization 7, and I got a chance to play Elden Ring Night Reign this week, and we're going to do a long-form preview on that. And I'm just saying you should stay tuned for that Elden Ring Night Reign preview because I think it's going to surprise you big time. If you know me, you know I'm not a big fan of From Software's games, so you should be excited to check out that preview when we finally get it up.
Or as a From fan, you should be very nervous.
Yeah, you may be right. That's actually right. That's a good angle to look at it, and that's a big part of what we're going to talk about when we talk about like it's appealing to one side. Does it appeal to both? That'll be the X
murmurs
factor.
ripple through the Souls community. Shane Satterfield likes it.
Oh, we've completely screwed the pooch.
It's fucking over. It's fucking over. We're so gone. We're so dead.
We're gonna sell like 100 copies. So anyway, those are the things that we're gonna be recording offline after we get done with our podcast today with you guys. We are Sifted. We are GameFace. This is the flagship show for Sifted. We are supported 100% at patreon.com/Sifted. It would be awesome if you could go over there and give us a pledge. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early, in a lot of cases really freaking early. So we'd appreciate that. You can also help us on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube if you don't want to go over to Patreon. And if you don't have any money, you can help us with Twitch Prime. If you want to figure out how to do that, please go down below into the description. There's step-by-step instructions on how to help us. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give us free money. It's a part of what you're already paying for, and it costs you nothing to give us money. So figure out how to do that down below in the description. We'd appreciate it very, very much. Anything you want to add before we get into the show?
Just that we're probably going to miss the biggest news of the day that happened like an hour ago.
What news?
They laid off the North American support team for Marvel Rivals. NetEase did.
Why?
Nobody knows, but the game director of the North American team, which is not the game director of the whole game. Like, the main team is in China.
Yeah.
So this was a North American support team. The director and everybody else got all laid off.
Why?
Today.
The game is exploding.
He doesn't know, but I think it's because NetEase over the last year or so has been slowly removing all of its investment in North America.
Interesting.
I think it's just part of that. I don't think they did anything wrong or it's some kind of nefarious.
They're just moving all their operations.
They're pulling all their stuff out of North America and have been for some time.
I wonder why.
I don't know why, although now it feels like it's probably a pretty good move, considering how volatile things are about to get economically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's any judgment on the devs for what they did, and it doesn't seem like it's going to particularly impact like support of the game going forward because the main team's in China.
Yeah, well, that could present issues.
But it is just, that is an interesting question. Like, what are there tariffs on microtransactions?
Right. I mean, there probably are.
You're importing data.
Nobody
tell them that. Don't tell him that. Like, don't bring that up. But so yeah, just like, it's such a ridiculous thing where it's like, yeah, work on a really successful, amazing game, and make the be part of the team that made the first big new character shooter since Overwatch, and you suffer the same fate as the people who made Concord.
Yeah,
it's like, well, why even bother anymore?
Yeah,
don't get into game dev, people. Yeah, like it really seems like it's a bad scene.
Unless you just want to do it yourself as an indie,
right? Like unless you want to be Ted Price, unless you want to run it yourself.
Yeah.
Which is really not being a game dev; it's being a studio head.
Right.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But unless you have that ambition, I would say it's just not. It doesn't seem worth it. Like it's so volatile and unpredictable, and it doesn't even matter if the thing you made does well.
It's pretty specialized.
You're just aligned. I mean, that's any corporation. I mean,
you could work in film and TV doing CG stuff, but otherwise, it's a pretty specialized.
Even that, like I know people in VFX who worked on Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all, and they haven't had a job in a year.
I know.
Like it's terrible.
It really is.
It's all terrible right now.
Yep. Well, before we get going into the show proper, let's check in with you guys in our chat and see how y'all are doing. It's been a week since we've seen you guys. 2 weeks actually since we've seen you guys. See if I can scroll up real quickly here. Lots of Twitch Prime coming in here. That's awesome. Don Lionheart, thank you. And as always, guys, if you want us to address a comment or a question you have, always go at Sifted Games in our chat. It makes it easier for us to find them. Don Lionheart, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's flipping awesome. Glottis21, thank you. Also, by the way, I should add that our live shows, Matt, have been setting records lately for our unique viewers. We have had, like, our last 3 or 4 episodes have been far and away our most viewed episodes on Twitch as far as unique viewers are concerned. So if you're new, say hello, give us your first time chat. We always make sure that we call out people who chat for the first time on our show. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, except we weren't here last week. But we actually were on a run, Matt. We hadn't missed an episode in like 9 months or something ridiculous. So I think we're pretty reliable that we're here every Tuesday.
Jam Master J died?
What?
Matter of fact says R.I.P. Jam Master J.
I thought he died a long time ago.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He died a long time ago.
Maybe that's just what you were playing.
Oh, it probably was playing Jam Master J. Yeah. Yeah, he died a while ago. He got caught up in all kinds of bad stuff. He was shot.
That's what I felt like I'd seen that before.
Yeah, it was over some weird drug deal. People just showed up in his studio and shot him.
But there's so many celebrities where sometimes I'm just like, I thought that person was dead. Like, and they're popped up in the news again.
Yeah. It took them 5 or 6 years to find the killers. And they walked in his studio and shot him in broad daylight.
Okay, yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, it took them a long time to find his killers. Yeah, and rest in peace, Jam Master Jay, absolutely. Everyone giving you well wishes, Matt, hoping that you're feeling better. Nox Atronitis, thank you. One Super Master Gamer, thank you. Iviz, thank you. Majora Tom 91, thank you. All for Twitch Prime. You guys are awesome. See if we've got any others in here. Everyone giving their comments about Luna, who finally has started showing up again. She disappeared for a long time. And now she's like, I'm back again. What's up, everybody? Retro Modern Gamer, Matt, is it a messed up disc in your back?
No, I'm gonna go to a spine specialist to see, so it might be, but they didn't see anything on the CT. They saw, I can't remember the name of them. They're like, it's a particular kind of herniation of a disc that goes up into the vertebra, but that it can cause back pain, but it doesn't always. It's not a problem really.
Interesting.
So basically, I need to see somebody to determine whether that might be what the problem is. It could be. That would explain why there's weird, why the pain wraps around and does weird. It could be a nerve thing rather than a muscular thing.
It's true. Yep.
So I don't know, but there's not much you can do about that except to sort of manage it, and because surgery is only done on that in extreme cases, and I would prefer nobody dig into my
that's one part of my body I don't want to touch if I can avoid it. That's for sure. Matter of Fact says that he's also a catastrophic thinker, just like you.
My mom is. I get it from my mom.
Oh, really?
That's one reason I'm a good producer, is I'm always planning ahead, but it doesn't make for a very relaxing life.
Very tall. It says AARP face. That's the name of our show now.
Yeah. Man, last time I saw all my high school friends, the first hour was just everyone talking about all the medical problems and all the medical problems everybody who wasn't there that day had, and all that. I'm like, we are my grandmother.
That's what happens when you get old.
My grandmother.
Surgeon Ed, thank you for Twitch Prime. Metal Gear Jimmy, thank you. Erebus Jones, thank you. Hope you're doing good, brother. Who else we got in here? Sleeping Turtle 3, thank you for Twitch Prime. Vincent says, presumably Avowed is next week. Yeah. Matt's actually been playing Avowed. I haven't touched it yet because there's so many damn games right now. It's so insane how this industry is just so dumb. It's like you had all these open weeks for the last 6 weeks where really nothing was coming out. Instead, they put out 6 big games all in a 10-day period. It's so annoying.
I think this is just the timing. This has always kind of happened. I think it's just the timing of getting things done so they can be printed in China before the new year and shipped out and everything. I think that's just how it happens. I don't think a lot of these are overlapping with each other audience-wise, so it's probably okay. But I will say, as a preview of next week, I have played Avowed more than the other games we're reviewing today combined.
And the reviews for Avowed, I'm shocked at how low they are. It's so weird.
I'm not super shocked by it.
Okay.
I don't agree with them for the most part.
But you're not surprised by them?
I'm not surprised. Okay. I think...
You can see where they might be coming
more
from.
And more I'm beginning to understand. It's like, oh, you guys don't understand what you liked about New Vegas. Mm-hmm. Because it's not any different from New Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I have always been someone who didn't think New Vegas was all that great.
Yeah, both of us have agreed on that.
And Avowed is very much in the same vein and very much in the same structure and very much on par with the writing of New Vegas. And I don't have a problem with that because it's kind of what I expect from
setting is what really turned me off. New Vegas, just the sand. The opening of the game is just it just takes forever.
And in Avowed, the setting is the star. The setting is amazing.
Okay.
In part because I like Pillars of Eternity. I'll play the other Pillars of Eternity, and I'll tell you, man, one thing I did not expect about Avowed that I had to kind of admit after about 10 hours, they could have called this Pillars of Eternity 3. It is very much
hinted at
Pillars of Eternity 3. It is in continuity. It references the events, although it's not directly connected to the events of the previous 2 games. It has all the same kind of structure, and it's just a Skyrim clone, sort of. It's a first-person RPG, but it is very much similar to how the first 2 games worked. It's just not a isometric game.
Yeah.
And I feel very much like I'm playing a very similar. You could. I mean, I know that but it is very much. It's very much Pillars of Eternity 3 in the same way that Fallout 3 is Fallout 3.
Okay.
It's different.
I see what you're saying.
It's not the same way. The tone is a little different because of the change in setting and change in sort of approach. But Like, it is much more of a. It's not like some kind of like reinvention of the idea with the setting sort of propping it up. It is Pillars of Eternity 3.
Okay.
And I greatly appreciate that because I did like the Pillars of Eternity games a lot. However, they're not for everyone. They're very esoteric. And, like, unless you're on board with the whole reincarnation of souls and everybody sort of knows how that works and everyone just sort of accepts that, like, insane spiritualism is just real and factual because we can actually prove it with magic and, like, we've talked to the god. Like it's a fantasy setting that's very much like there is no mystery as to whether all this stuff exists. The mystery is we don't really understand why it does what it does because nobody bothers to tell us. And we are sort of like pawns on the wheel. They call it the wheel. It's like pawns on a wheel. So if that doesn't interest you, if it's just too like weird mumbo jumbo, and you can play your character as someone who just is like, this is all stupid.
Yeah,
like I think, but that isn't going to get you very far in the world because not many people think that way. It's like Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four saying he doesn't believe in God, where there was an issue where they literally met God.
Right.
And it was called, and it was Jack Kirby, of course.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're friends with the god of thunder. And he's like, no, he's just a very advanced being. I'm like, no, Thor is magic. I don't know what else. Magic is just, Doctor Strange comes over for poker, dude. Like, he's magic.
Yeah.
Like, so it's that kind of thing. But it's treating me pretty good.
All right. Well, there you go. There's a sneak peek. I saw Squishy Muffin was asking, why are they called live reviews when they're not live? Because they're recorded live. So typical reviews, you play the game, you take a bunch of notes, and then you write it, and then you record voiceover, and then you put it all together. Live reviews, we are recording our commentary on the game live. There's nothing pre-canned, there's nothing pre-written. We are just talking about the game live. As Matt and I discuss it, different things come up. That's why they're called our live reviews. And it's just a good way to try to delineate them against other video reviews that are canned and written. And there's nothing wrong with those. Don't get me wrong. I've been doing those for years as well. I just think this is a little different angle to take on them. Sleeping Turtle 3, thank you for Twitch Prime. Toon Medic, thank you for Twitch Prime. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for that Tier 1 sub. That's awesome. David Nordic, thank you. Mitchell Ness, thank you for Twitch Prime. Norix Nessie, 94, thank you. E. Thiemann says, Matt's doing well. Yakuza Like a Pirate with an 8 average at the moment. Yeah. And we curated some reviews for that this morning. They're up on SIFTD.net right now. But yeah, you're right. It's sitting around an 8, which is pretty good. And that'll be in the show next week. Avowed will be in the show next week. Or not in the show, but we'll be recording reviews. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage will be next week. Like I said, there's just so many games coming out now after nothing for the first 6 weeks of the year.
Hey, we had Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah. Meadow 2, thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. 8 months. That's awesome. That's quite a streak you got going. What else we got here? Okay, I think that's it. Is Sound Wizard in the house? He is. What's up, Sound Wizard? How's it going, brother? Let's see. I think that's it. I think we're ready to go. We're going to kick things off today with the Sony State of Play. Definitely the biggest news from the week. It was a 45-minute presentation with no BS in between. Literally just one trailer after another, and they showed a lot. Matt, were you surprised at how many games and how much stuff was shown in this? Because I took a log of this. It was like this long. It was kind of crazy.
Not real. I mean, I don't know.
For February to have a big thing like that. But they're kind of the de facto way to throw out third-party stuff now, right?
Yeah, and like we didn't know anything else coming up, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I kind of forgot there were that many, especially because I only caught the tail end of it and then just watched the highlights through Sifted.
Yeah.
Like, I just forgot it was happening.
Yeah.
In part because it was so abrupt. It
was, yeah.
You got it.
I mean, they announced it the day before, and then it happened the next day. Yeah. I don't know why they do it that way. I mean, the first game we're going to talk about here is definitely the biggest game from the debut. It is a game called Saros. It is the next game from Housemarque, a studio that Matt and I have a certain affinity for.
I mean, this is Returnal, too.
Yeah. Why is this? So here's this.
Because Returnal didn't sell all that well.
Is that really why they just named it something else, you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it really is. It's the same game. It's a roguelite where you keep trying over and over, set in a shape-shifting world, where the world changes every time you go on a different run. I mean, that's Returnal.
I can understand. Also, like, this seems very influenced by Indian culture. Like, so I can see making it its own thing in that regard, because Returnal was pretty much more straight sci-fi with the sort of, there's the mystical sort of, Solaris sort of idea of like, you know, everything kind of happens in her head maybe. This has, I mean, he basically fights a Hindu god here. I mean, this is I can't remember the name of the goddess. This is
I don't remember its name either, actually. But you're right though.
But and you know, he's obviously Indian. But like, it's like, okay, like, so there's something going, and you can hear at the end the soundtrack kind of goes into almost like a Bollywood
it does
influence sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this might be real interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be. And so it stars Rahul Kohli. I've never heard of him, but everybody else seems to know who he is. Do you know who he is?
I don't, but I just haven't paid a lot of attention to, like,
he seems like he's a star somewhere. I'm not familiar with him though.
He might be a star in India. I know RRR, and that's about it.
Noxator says apparently more meta progression this time. What does that even mean?
As in, like, you upgrade yourself more, like, between runs.
Okay.
Meta progression means like your character becomes permanently upgraded in the roguelike.
Okay. Surly Mexican, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Hope you're doing good too.
He
was in iZombie, Sleeping Turtle 3 says.
Okay.
And then Erebus Jones says he's British. He's the voice of the Space Marine in Bolt Gun. Interesting. Okay. So he's not a gigantic celebrity. I felt kind of stupid. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know this guy? Everybody else immediately was like, oh my gosh, that's who it is.
That's why. Okay, yeah, Swanland says fans want him to play Reed Richards. I do remember that name being brought up for a Reed Richards.
Gotcha.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So this game is scheduled for 2026. It just really feels like PlayStation is so desperate to show a first-party game at this point. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't come out till 2027 or 2028, although they are due, because Returnal's now been out for like...
due. I think this will be out next year.
Yeah.
Maybe late next year, but I think it will be.
I mean, it is due.
Would have been nice to see some gameplay, but it's so early. You do see the bullet hell is coming.
As soon as I kind of knew that this was the next Housemarque game, like, kind of immediately when he says like run after run, I was like, oh, this is Returnal 2. But then obviously it wasn't. They named it something else. Do you think that that's really gonna change anything, like it not being called Returnal 2?
I mean, I think people are more willing to give something a chance if they don't feel like they've missed the first game. And let's be honest, if you go back and play the first game, who knows if you're going to want to do that again?
Right.
Like
it was really hard.
It was very hard.
It was one of those games where like I enjoyed it, but when I was done with it, I'm like, I'm done with it.
Yeah. And it's unrelated to the first game except in style, gameplay design.
Yeah.
So like, make it its own thing. Don't make people feel like they have to keep up with things. Let it stand on its own, especially if the first one wasn't a runaway hit. Like it's not like you're getting anything out of calling it Returnal 2.
Yeah. It just seems like it sold a couple million, maybe.
Yeah, but that was over the course of time.
Right.
I think letting it stand on its own is fine.
Yeah. I think it's probably the right move.
Because I'm sure it will have no real narrative connection to the first game anyway.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think this game is going to sell less than Returnal did. It'll probably sell about the same ultimately.
And there are previous games, before they got acquired by Sony, like their games were all pretty much similar, and they didn't have to all be sequels to each other.
Yeah, I do feel like Returnal is a little more approachable. Because the whole way I have it set up with the girl and the spaceship crash lands, and I just feel like it's more relatable to a bigger audience maybe than this is, but who knows?
We don't know how this starts, though.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it could start the same exact way. That's the funny part. He could crash land on that desert planet or whatever, and it's just really the same exact setup as Returnal 1. I guess I would agree with you. I'm probably a little more excited for this than I would have been just for Returnal 2. Because it is sort of an unknown, and we don't know what the setting's going to be, and maybe there are some tweaks to the gameplay and stuff like that. They haven't talked about it a ton yet. But anyway, that game is called Saros, and it's scheduled right now for 2026. It is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but as we all know, eventually it will probably come to PC as well. Next up, probably the biggest surprise, I think, and that is Days Gone Remastered. Sony Ben's project.
You want to talk about having nothing for the schedule.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Basically putting some tweaks and additions and the PC version on PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
And giving a little upgrade to the PC version.
And it seems like Bend is working on this.
Yeah. I mean, they got to do something.
Yeah. Because they took away their game as a service.
Yeah.
And now
clearly there was another team doing this little thing over here.
Right.
I mean, we've said before, I didn't like this game very much.
Yeah.
But like we've said before that there's potential in it. And it does sound like they're adding more horde combat to spread it through the whole thing, which is one of the main things. It took too damn long to get to the big hook, basically.
There's going to be a permadeath. I couldn't imagine playing this game with permadeath.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's just way too easy to die.
I don't care enough about it to do that.
That's
honestly
insane. I couldn't imagine playing this game that way.
I'll tell you what, I'll pay extra money if you give me a let Boozer die option.
And here's the crazy part, Matt. So if you own the game already, you can upgrade for just $10 to the new remastered version. However, yesterday it came out that if you acquired this game the month that they gave it away for free on PlayStation Plus for being a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you cannot get the $10 upgrade. You have to have bought the game at full, or whatever price you paid for it. You had to have bought the game to get the $10 upgrade.
I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised if they change their mind on that, if people yell enough.
People are starting to yell.
But also, I can't imagine there are enough people who care that much about this game who got it on PS Plus. Like, that seems like the niche of a niche to a point that who gives a shit if they're unhappy, you know? Yeah. That doesn't sound like a critical mass enough. I don't think that many people could even form one of these hordes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand what the objective of this is, because people who already have this game, most of them have already got everything out of it that they want to. I can't see in 2025, because it looks a little bit prettier, suddenly a whole new audience wanting to play the game.
I mean, it's sold pretty, once the price dropped to like, you know,
$20
and lower,
$30,
like it sold pretty well. I think it's up to like 10 million or something.
Oh wow.
Like,
that's more than I thought.
Like, it's a lot of units that did not sell anywhere near full price. So I don't know how Sony judges that. But there are a lot of people who have played this, and if you paid $10 for this or $15 for this, and then they're like, hey, $10 to upgrade it to add more stuff, and that's not too bad, sure.
One thing I always forget is that other people replay games way more than I do.
Yeah, and let's imagine, like, say, a quarter of the people that have this game buy the $10 upgrade. Mm-hmm. That's like $20 million.
It's easy money, yeah. You probably spent 10 to do this, be my guess. Maybe less, actually, than 10 million to do this.
Oh, way less.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is 40 million.
Right, but it was also made in a country where the salary, the median salary is really low.
I can't imagine it would cost 10 million total. This can't be more than a year's work for a pretty small team.
Yeah, you're probably right. 20 people at $100K for a year.
Yeah, you're looking at probably
5 million.
Probably 2 to 5.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yep. Zsaber says, I wish Sony Ben would reboot my precious Siphon Filter. Some of the Days Gone directors worked on Siphon Filter. Yeah, I mean...
Did you know that this takes place in the same world as Siphon Filter?
It does, yeah. Believe it or not.
Because Sony Ben. But there are little references... It's not like direct, but there are little references in this game that make it clear that Siphon Filter is the same universe.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Maybe that's why everybody's a dick.
Swan Senpai says, after all the patches and bug fixes, it turned into a good game. I'll upgrade for €10. Yeah. I don't know. I played this game enough. I played it for 30 hours or whatever.
I would be willing to give it another shot with the upgrade on PC, probably, because that is also coming to PC.
Yeah. Oh, it is, actually? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I think it might just be like... I can't remember what they're doing with it, but you're going to be able to get it. I don't remember if it's just a patch or if it's going to cost something. But they did say something about that, because I remember reading it. But also, I wasn't paying super close attention because his day's gone.
Yeah. This comes out on April 25th,
It's a DLC with the new modes on PC. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll probably do it that way.
And it probably looks better on PC organically.
I got it for like $10 already on PC. So I was like, yeah, no, not a problem. Sure.
I love this.
Like there is a universe where this is a really good game. I don't think this is going to do it necessarily, but it might make it. I played for worse stuff for longer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Believe me, anyone who's worked in this industry has played way worse for way longer. That's for damn sure. That's just part of the job. That's what makes it a job in the end, is having to play the bad games for as long as you play the good ones.
I wonder if the director will complain about this too.
All right.
They complained about Astrobot having whatever his name is, and I don't remember his. I don't remember the main characters. I just remember Boozer because I got tired of people talking about him. Like, who cares?
Yep. So anyway, again, you can upgrade for $10 on April 25th if you want to, if you already own the game. I'm guessing if you don't, it's going to be a $70 purchase. They haven't actually said it.
I don't know if that'd be a full price. I would make it $40.
Yeah, that would be smart.
Yeah, and then like
if you really want to get a new audience to it.
Also on PC, maybe I can mod the bike to get more than like 4 feet per gallon, which was really my main complaint. Like, if you're gonna make me ride back and forth all the time, it's just like, that's not how long gas lasts in a bike.
Yeah, that's a very simple thing for them to fix too, honestly.
It's just a little, I'm sure it's just
just
one
a number
parameter
that they have to change in the code. Like, it's very simple.
That was honestly one of my biggest complaints, is just I just need to go over here. Why does it have to be such a fucking production?
Yeah.
For reasons that have nothing to do with it being a zombie apocalypse. It's like, okay,
it's tedious.
there's zombies in front of me, cool. If there's other gang members in front of me, like blocking the road, cool. But I have to constantly stop because this thing doesn't hold enough gas. It burns all the gas so fast, and for some reason, this dude will just not carry an extra fucking tank on him. Like, it's like, if I was in that situation, I'd be strapping gas tanks to my back. I don't give a shit how dangerous or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just need to get there without having to stop forever.
Yeah, and put your life in jeopardy every time you stop, basically.
Or just, I don't know, camp some people out and keep the gas station clear of zombies. Maybe that would be a good idea. I don't know.
Yep.
A little proactiveness here, people.
So that was a surprise that Days Gone is being revived again.
At the same time, it's like, what else do they got?
That's really where we're at.
Like, this really feels like, we might as well do this to fill a hole in the schedule because there's nothing else.
Well, just the fact that I mentioned earlier that this was a 45-minute presentation with so many games that the log was like this long when I typed it out, and these are the first two first-party games we're talking about.
Yeah, well, this state of play really drives home, like, third-party games might as well be Sony exclusives.
Yeah, at this point.
Because they're just other games to play on PlayStation, and the idea of playing them on the Xbox is not something that occurs to people.
Yeah, I mean, this week, Phil Spencer said he is no longer trying to get people to buy Xboxes. It's not even something he's concerned about anymore. Dragging people away from Nintendo or PlayStation to buy an Xbox. He's like, nope. Not worried about it anymore.
To the point that he just had to clarify that, like, oh, no, we're not getting rid of the Xbox digital... your digital libraries are safe. Like, we're not going to get rid of those.
Yeah.
People are like, wait, does that mean that, like, Xbox is going... My account will go away or something? And, like, no, that's not what's going to happen. But
I also shared that going forward, you're going to start seeing Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5 logos in Xbox trailers and Xbox presentations.
Console wars.
The twist of the knife. That's the twist of the knife for Xbox fans right there. But it has to happen eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's
reality. It is. You can't
their
hide from reality.
That's their path they've chosen, and it's working.
It is working. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. Days Gone Remastered. Again, that's coming on April 25th. You can upgrade for $10 if you already own it. Next up, the first time I saw something for Borderlands 4 and was actually interested. They put out the release date trailer for Borderlands 4. It is coming September 23rd, 2025. This is basically the third trailer for this game, and it is the first one that I watched and was like, I want to play that. The first two did nothing for me, and this one, they finally start showing off some of the crazy guns in this game.
This one continues to do nothing for me.
Oh, really?
This is just, that's Borderlands.
I mean, it is, but I had kind of forgotten about how Borderlands is all about having these crazy weapons with all these buffs.
All this does is make me remember the fucking grind. And that it's just going to be more of a grind. It's like, okay, just going to go kill all the same fucking raiders again. And now maybe I'll get a gun that's a little bit different from mine, but it's not really worth it. I mean, because I don't like the way it fires, and so it was all for nothing. And now I'm going to go back and do this thing for the story mission that I don't care about. Like, I don't care.
Borderlands 3 really did kind of do me in.
I'm done with Borderlands.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy Borderlands 3 hardly at all. I really struggled to keep playing that game. And it's been long enough that you kind of forget the nuances of the franchise. You're right.
I don't think there's nuance here, really.
Maybe that's the problem.
I like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands because it was a little different, and it had a little different angles on things, and it wasn't the same enemies as that I'd been fighting for 4 games before that. And I like Tiny Tina as a character for the most part. Or maybe I just like how Ashley Birch.
I like that gun right there. That whatever gun he is using in that shot. I love it.
Well, you'll never see it.
You're right. I probably won't.
You'll never see anything that does anything remotely like that.
You're probably right.
Yeah. You will find something that kind of works like a normal three-round burst assault rifle, and we'll stick with that for 40 hours of the game, because the only thing that gives you reliable headshots, no matter anything else you find, is going to be slightly less good. And you're like, well, I can't give up the headshot damage because that's what gets me through everything. And then you're going to hit some boss that doesn't take headshot damage, and then you're not going to be able to get past that. And you won't have any other guns that do anything of use because all the explosive stuff is not actually all that good outside of a trailer environment. And then you're just going to kind of walk away or find a group of people that can beat it for you. And that's Borderlands.
Yeah.
And I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. I will play a Tiny Tina sequel, but I I can't even see myself playing this at all.
Wow.
Like I have zero. I played a lot of Borderlands 1 to completion twice. I played Borderlands 2 to completion and the DLC stuff. I played Borderlands 3 as long as I could stand it. I played about halfway through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and that is enough Borderlands for me for the rest of my fucking life. Okay? Like this is I see nothing new or interesting in the trailer at all. I just see more of the same. And if more of the same is all you want, great. And I'm not someone who has a problem with more of the same, obviously. I think execution is way more important than innovation and new ideas. But Borderlands, I don't know what's left to execute on Borderlands other than like 4,000 more raiders.
It does feel stale, for sure. Ashes on the Hourglass says Borderlands is basically a Western Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I get a little bit shooter Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah. Slagathor, the art style for Borderlands 4 looks like they have almost abandoned the stylistic cartoon look the series is known for. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's there.
There's a cell shady to it, but it's not
very subtle.
Not pronounced the way it used to be.
Yeah.
I think that art style also was in part covering up what the hardware at the time couldn't do.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. I mean,
don't really need that anymore.
I think a lot of cell shading was that when it first kind of hit the scene. Retro Modern Gamer, do you think Sony has a first-person drought like Xbox had due to games as a service bombing out? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They had 12 of those in the pipeline, and like all but 4 of them were killed.
Or already killed. And some more maybe, by the way, because Fair Games now, it leaked out that it was
supposed to be this year.
Which I didn't even know.
Well, because they hadn't announced it.
Yeah, they never announced a release date.
That was just an internal milestone.
Right. And now it's not coming this year, and who knows if that game will make it to market before it's canceled. Yes.
No sign of Marathon.
Yeah. The games as a service stuff, definitely. To do it in the middle of a generation, that feels like something, if you're being strategic, maybe you do it at the end of a generation. After people have
spread it out.
After people got their God of War and all these other franchises that they want, then maybe you experiment a little bit.
Well, they did get God of War.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
And Sony Santa Monica's not doing a game as a service.
Yeah. Or are they?
No, they're not. They're doing their own
thing.
More or less.
Yeah, I mean, we do kind of know.
It's not God of War, but they're not working on a game as a service.
Unless
something has changed drastically, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's Insomniac.
We got a pretty good update on that not long ago.
Insomniac's not doing anything like that. Naughty Dog's not doing anything like that anymore. Now that
factories are
canceled.
They were.
But that was not the same people who were making Intergalactic or Last of Us 3. But it's just like those things take so long now. That's not a 2 to 3 year turnaround now. It's a 5 to 7 year turnaround.
Big bets.
So
for sure.
And
Mike's Q says, "Give us that Spider-Verse game."
That's the irony. Is like Spider-Verse isn't even one of those games as a service games. People listed it among that never existed. That was a pitch that didn't get picked up, which is crazy because of all the games as a service things they've announced. That's the best one.
Yeah,
like that's the one that hits the zeitgeist. That's the one. Look what Marvel Rivals is doing. Are you fucking crazy? Do you know what people would do to be able to play as like Gwen and all these and Spider-Punk and all these different people? Hidden and like that would probably be done right about the time they finally finish Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like the synergy on that is fucking crazy.
Blizzard's starting to get salty over Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, I saw.
I mean, let's be fair. It did just blatantly copy Overwatch, but
sure, but like it's not like they were using it,
right?
Remember when they put out that trailer, like where it was like with the animated CG trailer, and like they're like it's Overwatch back, and Winston's like, "Yeah, we are." They didn't do anything for 2 years after that.
It's so bad.
No one to blame but yourselves.
Seriously,
no one.
I agree. Yeah. So anyway, Borderlands 4.
Speaking of management,
if you still care after hearing us talk about it.
Speaking to management, not to obviously they don't have a control over what Blizzard does. Blizzard dropped the ball on that so hard it's not even fucking funny.
Yep. Coming out September 23rd. If you're still interested after listening to Matt and I just shred it for the last 5 minutes. Mike Q says, I just think of all the Spider-Man skins you could sell. Infinite skins. Yeah.
Infinite characters.
You're leaving so much money on the
table.
There's
so many of them.
Yep, it's true.
They don't even have to do anything different.
Yeah. Next up, what I actually believe is the best game that was in this state of play. It's Split Fiction.
I think this is definitely going to review the best.
I think this might be Game of the Year.
Pedigree says that yes, it's on. There's no reason not to think.
This is another reason why I think you've already won the Fantasy League.
Yeah, I think this might be a 9.5.
I do too. I don't care. I'll lose the league to be able to play a 9.5.
This trailer looks real solid.
Everything they've shown of this game looks solid. If you start digging into the interviews that Joseph Fares has done, it makes the game look even better. You should definitely go on Sifted, go to the game page for this game and click the little gear and click follow. And everything that comes out for this game from that point forward will be pinned to the top of your SIFT until the game comes out. This is definitely one of the games of 2025 to keep an eye on. This was supposed to be a story trailer, but it was just a kick-ass trailer.
Although Vincent does point out that this game is probably against a Mario game for Game of the Year.
Maybe. We'll see if that Mario makes it out or not. I'm not 100% sure it's going to make it out this year. Good chance.
At the very least, it's up against Mario Kart.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be plenty of good competition this year, don't get me wrong, but this game is going to stand out as something different. And the last game was Game of the Year that they made.
I think it will still be in the conversation at the end of the game, even though it comes out.
It's coming out early, and that is kind of a curse in some ways. Like,
it can be, but like also sometimes it's like you know.
Little bit of Mega Man in this.
Yeah, she's got a little Mega Man in that outfit.
Yeah, which I love. I think this game looks really cool.
It gives them the freedom to explore a bunch of different weird genre stuff. I think that works out pretty well.
This game is looking awesome. It's coming in April, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not much longer to wait, man. They showed it at like the Game Awards, and 4 months later we're going to be playing it. I love when developers and publishers do that. So again, that Split Fiction is coming from Hazelight. If you remember Hazelight, It Takes Two, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. They are known for cooperative gameplay.
A Way Out, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we'll just forget about that one. That was definitely their black eye a little bit, A Way Out. But still not terrible. At least it had some unique gameplay concepts and design ideas. So anyway, I thought Split Fiction was the best looking game in this whole thing, and there are literally like 30 games in this state of play. And we're not going to go over them all. We definitely prioritize, but we're going to go over like 10 or 15 of them. Next up, probably the game that disappointed me the most in this state of play, and that is Mind's Eye. So Mind's Eye is the first game created on a platform that former Rockstar alum Leslie Benzies is launching called Everywhere. And Everywhere it looks like it's gonna,
that thing.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be this weird open world thing that you can go and mess around in. This is the first actual game that is coming out of the tech that they built for that platform. And it's crazy, Matt, to see Leslie Benzies get in these things with his face on camera and talk up the game, because that's not really what Rockstar does.
No.
And it's interesting, because Leslie, by the way,
Rockstar is like a giant stone monolith that like every 10 years someone finds an amazing thing outside of it and doesn't know how it got there.
Right.
It's just like every once in a while the stone blesses us.
Yeah.
Like that's
pretty much. And the other thing too is like Leslie, he was like a marketing guy. Like he wasn't like really the creative driving force at Rockstar. Now, to be fair, at Rockstar, all of the figureheads kind of had their hands in a lot of pies. So I'm not saying Leslie had nothing to do with the creative angles of GTA or Red Dead or any of that, but he wasn't like a driving creative force. But I don't even people even know who he is. We do. No, the average person doesn't know who the hell he is.
No, I barely know that. Like nobody knows who makes GTA. For the most part. Like
I mean, you know Sam because there's those iconic photos
they
of him
don't know who he is,
where he looks like Grizzly Adams or
but
whatever.
A normal person doesn't know who that is.
Definitely
you go to 90% of the GTA fan base and say Sam Hauser, and they're going to be like, Sam who?
Yeah,
nobody knows who makes these games.
Our audience does, but most people do not.
No.
And this game,
like casual people, maybe know Kojima. And maybe Molyneux, and
they'll be like, "There's that Mario guy."
And they know Sid Meier because his name's on the box,
right? Yeah.
And American McGee. That's about it. If you don't have your name on the box, the average person is going to know who you are.
Ashes in the Hourglass says, "Wasn't GTA alum Benzies' idea?" Actually, I don't know. I had not read that. I don't know that at all. Retro Modern Gamer thought Leslie Benzies had a big sway on GTA. No, that is definitely not true.
If he did come up with it, I sure hope that he's still getting royalties somehow.
Yeah, Leslie was the guy who figured out a lot of the aesthetics for Grand Theft Auto. Like, he was kind of the guy behind the cartoon box art and that whole aesthetic that Grand Theft Auto has. He was more of like a marketing guy generally, but again, everyone at Rockstar did get involved at least a little bit creatively. So he does have some credits for that stuff, but for the most part, it was the Hausers that drove pretty much all.
Tom Clancy isn't a video game developer. Yes, everybody knows Tom Clancy because he was a best-selling author.
Yeah, he never made a game in his life.
And he never wrote most of I think Rainbow Six was the last book he actually wrote. He had a ghost writing team that did everything after that.
Yeah. Out of Baldy's Way, thank you for Twitch Prime. This looks like the most generic open world game I have ever seen.
Yeah, this is.
It's like
there is. I don't see any even the robots look like they just escaped from iRobot.
Yeah,
it's very. Blah.
And then it's just some hodgepodge of nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
someone in the chat said someone in the chat said it looks like a fake game.
Yeah,
like it looks like a game you'd see in like a movie.
A movie. We're like, it's an action game.
It's just like a guy with a gun and robots and cars and explosions. It's like it looks like a fake game.
Yeah, this game
true.
To me is not tracking is something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Honestly, it's supposed to come out summer 2025.
Nox Eternus says he was lead designer and producer on GTA 5. So that's something.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe some of those titles that they hand out a little bit. Like, they're like, what do you want to be in this one, Leslie? Because, again, they all do a little bit of everything. And I think they just figure out, like, high-powered credits to hand out to their bros, basically, on these games. But anyway, it's called Mind's Eye. It's coming summer 2025, so just a few more months to wait. Again, I definitely was expecting a little bit more from the guy who worked on GTA for most of his career, but I think a lot of people, when you leave someplace like Rockstar, you're kind of slapped in the face with reality. Mm. And the reality is, for most people, you don't get 15 years to work on a video game. You get like 5. And if you can't deliver in 5, your game sucks and it goes out as a shitty game. It's like, a lot of people work in these organizations where they have a lot of success. A lot of times it's because you have crazy resources and a ton of staff and a ton of equipment, all the stuff that you need. All you need to bring is a creativity. You go to another studio, you need a lot more than that to make a successful game. So a lot of times you see like former BioWare or former Halo developer, and then their game is crap.
When you're also up against like weird expectations and people don't know how to. I mean, I saw a bunch of videos. Like comparing and contrasting the horses and horse riding in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 with Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was like, oh, this is really bad compared to. I'm like, yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 cost $500 million. Yeah. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 cost $40 million. Yeah, the fucking horses better be. It's like
everything better be better.
For $40 million, they got better things to worry about than whether the horse's ball sack contracts. Like, what the fuck are you comparing these two things for? They're completely Rockstar games are a fucking anomaly.
Yeah. It's not really fair to compare.
They're an alien civilization that has nothing to do with the rest of life on Earth. Just like. Enjoy that they show up once in a while, but like don't fucking
once in a while, meaning like once every 13 years.
Yeah, well, as soon as the Rockstar planet rotates close enough to Earth that they can reach us from orbit, they send down a new GTA. That's
I mean, if you think about it, what Naughty Dog does in 7 years is miraculous when you compare it to how long it takes Rockstar to get their games out. So maybe Naughty Dog's 7-year development cycles aren't so bad after all. No, of course, their games don't sell anywhere near as well as GTA. But
yeah, I mean GTA. We'll see. Yeah. But again, if you can do whatever you want when you make that kind of money.
Yep.
So
and they do.
Sure enough, they do.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Mind's Eye. Again, something coming summer 2025. Next up, a game that they showed like middle of last year, if I remember correctly, that really caught our eye. And we didn't really know what it was, and now we have a kind of a better idea of what it is. It's a game called Directive 8020. It is the next game in the Dark Pictures anthology, which I would just admit, Matt, to me, this is far and away the most interesting Dark Pictures game ever.
Yeah, getting away from kind of the gritty, like, dirty horror stuff.
And some of them are just like, we're on a boat.
Yeah. We're on a boat and we can't get... I'm like, yeah, it's a boat, dumbass. That's what... You ever been on a boat before? There's not really anywhere to go. Yeah. That's why cruises suck after a day or two.
Yes, I would never go on a cruise. It was like the last place I'd ever want to be.
And you're like, it's like you want to ruin the cruise in the middle of the night, go over to the side of the railing and look out and see how dark that shit is.
Right.
If anything happens to you, you're
done.
Dead.
You're done. Yep, you're gone.
Like when the ship sinks, it's not all nice and blue like in the end of Titanic.
Right.
No one could fucking see anything.
Yep. It's true.
Those lights went out.
Yeah. But this looks like the first Dark Pictures game that actually looks exciting.
Yeah, there's an interesting idea to this. I imagine it will probably not be that exciting just in the terms of how these games play.
Yeah.
It's like, well, everybody sure is moving rather slow considering what's happening.
Because isn't the plot of this, there's like a plague.
Yeah.
And you're sent to eradicate the plague, but you get there and then everybody on your your crew gets the plague.
Something. It looks like something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's Alien.
I mean, it's
right?
Thing or Alien. Yeah, I think it's more the Thing because it takes over like your body, and you don't know if your teammates have
it. Feels like Alien meets the Thing meets Event Horizon meets Sunshine. Kind of,
that's a good way to put it. I think it looks pretty cool, particularly for a Dark Pictures game.
I mean, hopefully, if it's like focused on like, because like I'll tell you, Sunshine's one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen because the first 2 acts are amazing, sort of introspective and speculative science fiction, and the third act is just degenerates into a stupid slasher movie with a burnt Russian guy killing everybody on the spaceship, and I remember halfway through that, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? What happened? Like, what happened to the fucking thoughtful, like, interesting story I was being told? And all of a sudden, there's a guy covered in burn scar makeup running around stabbing people. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about that movie is every single person in that movie became a massive superstar within the next 20 years. Like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Sunshine was like the incubator for like half the MCU.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. Yeah. So the thing about it is the creature in this is able to mimic its prey. So that's why people are comparing it to the Thing. They can basically take the form.
I'm just hoping they find a focus for it because right now it feels like they couldn't decide which movie to like be inspired by. And certainly that has been an issue with the other Dark Pictures ones where it's just like, okay, you wanted to do Hereditary and you wanted to do It Follows and you wanted to do Mother.
Yeah.
And you just decided to do that all in one game. Okay. Like, if that's what you think works.
I wish their games were that good.
Oh, no, yeah.
You actually mentioned some decent horror movies there.
No, but, like, again, it's possible to mix things together and get something weaker than what they were. You know, there's a reason those movies were separate movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, that is... I don't think we have a release date for... Oh, no, we do. It is coming out October 2nd, just in time for Halloween.
They are good about that.
Yeah.
They give you their game in time for Halloween.
To me, this is the most auspicious Dark Pictures game I've seen yet. You're right, though. It could totally suck. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, I respect what these guys do. I have never actually liked one of their games
I'm
very
surprised
much.
Bandai Namco keeps giving them money to do games.
Same.
None of them have sold well.
I don't think the Dark Pictures things cost very much.
Yeah.
The big ones like Until Dawn and The Quarry, yeah, I think those are big productions. Mm-hmm. I know Until Dawn's getting that the remake version.
Yeah,
probably
just in time for the film.
Time for the film, and it's like, hey, look, Rami was in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It does seem to be interesting. It is interesting that Until Dawn was for Sony, and Sony was kind of like, we're good.
Yeah.
Did they do Hidden Agenda as well? Was that them?
I don't think so.
You know, it was like the game that like you hooked your phone up to it.
Yeah,
and,
I remember.
Got to vote. Was that them?
I don't think so.
I thought that was them.
Supermassive?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
I could be wrong, but I don't remember it being.
I can't remember.
Again, this is called Directive 8020, coming out October 2nd. So we might want to follow that one.
I think Emperor Dread is right. He says I think the facial mapping tech these people use and develop explains a lot of the funding they get, which that is they are very good at the facial mapping.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, and that is tech you can sometimes rent out to other studios.
Hidden Agenda was them.
It was them. Interesting. That was quite a departure for them then.
I mean, it was pretty. I mean, you could tell it was them just in terms of how it worked.
Right.
The subject matter was different.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of liked what they were trying to do with that.
It was a cool concept. Yeah.
Didn't quite gel.
It always feels like studios do that kind of stuff, and they get so close, but then they don't. It doesn't sell, and they never get to go back and nail it.
I'd like to see them try that again with something like.
Yeah, I agree.
It even kind of feels like this might have been a good game to kind of bring that idea back somehow because of the tech of sci-fi.
Yeah,
it's like, have everybody.
It actually would fit in with the world.
You could almost do like a little space team thing where everybody has a job. They have to go on a ship or something.
Yeah, it might be cool. Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea.
Now we just made another game.
That'll probably never happen. Next up, we got to check out gameplay finally for Onimusha: Way of the Sword, the new Onimusha game. I wondered, Matt, whether this game was going to play like the old Onimusha games, because you may not remember if you're not of a certain age, but Onimusha was like Resident Evil Samurai. It had fixed camera angles. You had very limited control over the camera. You're trying to hack and slash enemies. Sometimes
although that changed as
they evolved it over time.
Like by 3, it was pretty free camera. But yeah, the first one was
straight up Resident Evil with swords.
Literally started as Resident Evil.
I think it may have, yeah. And so I was curious to see if they would kind of follow that aesthetic with this one. It doesn't look like they are. Some of the fight sequences look like they're trying to maybe pay an homage to that.
I definitely see Onimusha in the combat in this.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, I've seen people freaking out that this is a Souls-like. This is not. It's not.
There's no way. This is a hack and slash action adventure.
The dubbing is awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
You think that's on purpose?
I don't know.
I think it might be.
Like, Onimusha has always actually been kind of funny. Like, it's always had a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's always been comedic.
It's kind of
people forget that about
Onimusha was doing like, well, that happened thing before anybody else was doing the thing. Like this thing, the zombies are covered by blankets. Like it's very like you wouldn't think it by looking at the covers and the trailers of these things, but there were especially the 3 with Jean Reno, like there was a lot of like humor in it.
Yeah, they definitely had that angle.
It's nice to see that.
Gory AF, I would add, this game, which was not really something Onimusha was known for.
I've never liked these games very much.
I didn't either. I was never a fan of Onimusha.
The most I played was I played 3 because it was just so weird.
Yeah,
that had a modern day aspect to it. I thought that was interesting, and
I'm surprised it's coming back.
Same. I mean, if you're going to kind of cash in on the dark fantasy thing, I think this is the best thing in Capcom's back catalog
repertoire. Yeah,
for that. This doesn't really look that good to me.
I think the graphics are okay.
The graphics are. I mean, as a game,
as a game,
I don't.
Yeah,
this doesn't really interest me.
It seems a little odd, but Capcom. Like Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Capcom just allows its teams to just do crazy stuff.
And you know who's not laying anybody off?
Capcom. Yeah, you're right.
They have very realistic expectations, and they know what everything they do is going to do.
Yeah.
And they are not surprised by anything on the balance sheet. You cannot argue with the way Capcom is running themselves.
No. And I think the game, is it Pragmata? The game with the girl and the astronaut?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another Capcom, luxury project.
Yeah, usually MIA.
Yeah.
But they have the bandwidth to have that happen and get it right, apparently, or slowly cancel it and never mention it again.
Or change it into something else.
Got Okami 2 coming. I mean, there's so much stuff, they have, they are playing their cards conservatively but correctly, and they're doing it with single player.
They're killing it.
Boutique experiences for the most part.
They're killing it.
Other than Monster Hunter, which also, I mean, I have no interest in Monster Hunter, but also looks really good.
Oh, it's going to be gigantic. We didn't even mention it. It was actually the headliner of this, but it's been so blown out over the last.
The same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to see any more about Monster Hunter.
Even as someone who doesn't really care about
review time.
Even as someone who doesn't really care about Monster Hunter. Like the care and work put into making those monsters animate, it's remarkable. I remember when they used to just be big clippy messes, and now they almost look like real creatures.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty crazy,
and especially when they're fighting each other, and you can see them going for moves that incorporate the hitbox design of the enemy monster, and it looks like the monsters look like they know what other monster they're fighting, which is just remarkable to me.
I mean, there's so many huge changes for Wilds, the open world, and not having to go back after every hunt, people being able to join you on the fly, you just call them in.
That might finally be something that kind of helps me.
Play it again.
I've always been annoyed by the stop and start nature of that. It gives me too many moments where I'm just I want to stop playing.
Right.
This. If you just let me keep rolling,
you can.
I might get. And then the only obstacle is the fucking controls.
Right. Every time they say, "Oh, we fixed all that."
But it's just one of those series where I'm just man, I wish I liked this.
Right.
But I just have never.
Maybe this will be the one that clicks. It is definitely a lot different.
I didn't even like the board game.
No.
I tried that. I backed the big board game they did. Because I'm maybe I'll like it if I don't have to use a controller. And it turns out they just replicated how annoying the stamina system is in a card play system. It's all in the closet right there. I'm I got to get rid of that fucking thing. I played it once with my sister and my niece, and we're just all this. My niece ended up being out of stamina for the whole battle. I'm just I know you didn't have fun, but that's so Monster Hunter.
It is
so accurate to what the game is.
It really is. Yep. So anyway, Onimusha, Way of the Sword, it's coming out in 2026, a long time to wait. Onimusha 2, the remaster of that, comes out on May 23rd. That was another note that they mentioned.
Interesting. Do you think they would ever remaster Onimusha 3? Because wouldn't that require them to get the licensing rights for Jean Reno and that other guy?
I don't think it'll ever
the actor
happen.
who played Musashi was an actual Japanese
I don't think
actor.
it's worth the money
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think this Onimusha 2 is going to flop with a remaster. I don't think a lot of people care about the franchise.
Probably not.
Even people our age don't care that much about it. So
the biggest reaction you get from most people in Onimusha was like, oh yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it just wasn't
a Resident Evil hack and slash. Basically,
I really didn't feel like it came into its own in terms of playing well until 3, because it freed the camera up a lot more, and those CG cutscenes and like that opening with the giant walking castle thing, fucking amazing.
It really is.
And then like you get to the gameplay and you're like, yo, right, you can't do anything that cool. And
that's the way it was back then, Matt. So anyway, there you go. That's Onimusha Way of the Sword. Next up, we finally got the release date for Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Delta, whatever the hell you want to call it. It had actually leaked out a couple weeks before this was announced in the State of Play. It's coming out on August 28th. And so the leaks were accurate again, like they always are in 2025. Feels like every leak is accurate anymore. It's hard to find ones that are not accurate. Also, they announced a collector's edition of this, and it sold out at every retailer in like 5 minutes. So
Kojima magic.
I mean, it is interesting that Konami is moving on without Kojima, and still the fans were like, "Oh, I'm buying the collector's edition of this." So
I mean, a lot of that's for resale value because if it is any good, it's going to be super valuable.
Yeah, but they did sell out very quickly, so there's definitely some interest in this at the very least. Not from me in particular. I'm not a big fan of Metal Gear Solid 3.
That's interesting. Retro Modern Gamer and Andy T. Monahan said that John Renault said he'd be happy to reprise the role if a 3 remaster happened.
Really? Well, yeah, of course he'd be happy to.
A little extra money.
As long as you pay me.
He's not hurting for money, though. He's still got a career.
Yeah, which means he'll be more expensive than probably you want.
Probably not
much
more these days, I wouldn't think.
Will you play this, Matt?
I'll try.
Yeah.
Like, I've never gotten past the virtuous mission part of Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I reviewed this, so I had to finish it. But...
This might be the game that has refused to click with me more than any other thing.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. It was torture reviewing this game.
I do not understand why people love this game so much.
I didn't like it at all.
The controls are terrible. The controls are weird, and they don't tell you how to do anything. It's like, wait, to sneak... Because for the first, time I played it, I couldn't sneak up on anybody. I didn't understand what I was doing wrong, and then later I'm like, you have to use the D-pad and hold the square button and do... Like... Why didn't you fucking tell me that?
The whole CQC system was all...
It's ridiculous. It was just... It didn't make any fucking sense.
The bandaging.
It was like Tedium the game, and then your reward were these cutscenes that made me just embarrassed to be in the room with them. Like, it's just like, meow. It's like, fuck you. Like,
so cool boss fights, and that's the best thing I can say about it.
It's also the beginning of... And I hate to say, it's the beginning of when I couldn't take David Hayter seriously in the role.
Oh, because he was like he's throwing his voice so much at that point.
It was just starting to sound like him doing an impression of himself.
Yeah, I agree. But people love this. It's a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear, so they probably chose smartly in remastering it.
Yeah, probably. If you're going to pick one to do this to, it's probably 3 is the right one to do it to. Mm-hmm. There's the most room for improvement, quite frankly, and it's the one that seems so fondly remembered. And
it has a great reputation.
Has the most meat on it, and is solidly Snake through the whole thing.
It's true,
as opposed to the Raiden switch.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's a big difference. So anyway,
also Metal Gear Solid 2, maybe a little too relevant today to be a safe release in this day and age.
Not having people freak out about it.
Credit where credit's due. Kojima saw where a lot of this was going.
He did, actually, which is kind of scary that he saw it, but nobody else did. Again, it's coming out on August 28th. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And if you want to get one of the collector's editions, unfortunately, you are out of luck. Ashes on the Hourglass says because it has the best boss fights ever, but yeah, the learning curve is a little rough. It's not even that it's the learning curve; it's just tedium.
Yeah, the boss fights, the one or two that I've seen are good.
They are good. They're definitely the highlight of the game.
But also, I thought the boss fights were the highlight of 1 too, which is my favorite one is 1. Because 1 is basically just a mini-game collection broken up by cutscenes, and that's kind of what I think it should be, whereas whereas this is broken up by, constant long survival... I don't want to crawl through all this shit. I don't have this kind of time. I'm almost 50. Stop.
It was just boring.
The character I'm going to identify the most with at this point is the old guy who dies if you turn the game off for a week.
That's hilarious. So anyway, there you go. That's Metal Gear Solid 3, Delta, Snake Eater. I don't know what order all those words are supposed to be, but it is coming out.
You have a finite lifespan. You want me to climb that fucking ladder again? Fuck you.
Next up, a game that caught our eye a few months ago when it was debuted, and it still looks awesome today. It's a game called The Midnight Walk. It's got this awesome claymation art style. I can't remember if I watched something or read something where they interviewed this studio, and they're talking about the challenges of doing claymation and like stop motion animation. Oh no, you know what? I think it may have been. No, I think it was an interview. And how the challenge is to make it look like stop animation without people getting motion sickness.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're like, you want it to look like tick, 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 but you can't do it to the extreme where it starts to mess with people.
Yeah, you can't do. You can see the head bob is still smooth.
Right.
It's not motion tracked that
right.
way.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to think about it.
Balance.
Yeah. This game looks insane.
I saw a video of it was like a behind the scenes video of a woman animating the stop motion Pinocchio from the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And it's just him walking across Geppetto's house. And so it's just showing her. So it's moving at the speed you see him move in the movie, but it's just sped up of the animator doing the animation. And she changes clothes like 12 times.
Oh my god!
Because it takes like a week and a half to just do that.
Oh my god.
And it's just
no
like,
thanks.
Man, like
it's too much work.
The patience and the artistry and the craft to remember. Imagine like all you got done today at work was he took a step
like,
almost, and the next day you have to come in and remember where all that was, and like you have to keep this one movement across the room in your head to animate this thing one frame at a time. Like,
all the lighting has to stay exactly the same.
Yep.
Even the slightest deviation totally screws up the illusion.
I could never.
I couldn't imagine making a game like this, but that's what they've done. And there's no other game that looks like it.
Well, and my big fear on this is that no one cares.
Yeah.
Like this game that comes out and nobody bothers, cares, and like you put all this work and all this time and all this creativity and effort into it, and it doesn't matter. That's the worst thing.
I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised. It looks different, and things that look different.
Yeah, as much as everybody whines about innovation and different and it doesn't actually sell.
It doesn't always pay. Yep, that's for sure. So anyway, this is called the Midnight Walk. It's like an adventure. It's not really an action game per se. It is coming to PC, PS5, and VR on May 8th of this year, of 2025. Next up, I think the game that made the biggest impact with the audience, a game called Tides of Annihilation. Another stunner from China.
Yeah, but you know what? Could we get something that's not a fucking Souls-like or a character action game from China at this point? Because it's like, this really feels like Stellar Blade again.
I feel like a lot of developers in China feel that this is a safe option for them.
I think it's a safe option for export.
Yeah.
To North America.
Right.
Yeah, like, I'm sure there's tons of weird, crazy, different stuff happening in China that we don't see.
Right.
But the stuff they bring here is all Souls-likes.
Dark fantasy Souls-likes. Yeah. And this one at least is set, this is set in London?
Yeah. With the worst attempt at a British accent I've heard in some time. I don't, just get a British person.
Yeah. This is supposed to be set in modern London. Obviously, all hell's broken loose. But she has I like the scope and scale. The game looks amazing.
Look at
the visuals in this are incredible.
Like Black Myth Wukong, I'm just like, I appreciate the scale.
Yeah.
They attempt that doesn't happen too often.
It looks gorgeous.
There does seem to be some PS2 era God of War in this.
A little bit.
It's not
you can summon things to help
you. But also the platforming and the running around the side of the giant thing and flipping over the thing.
Climbing.
And even some of the fighting is almost isometric. Like the camera's not sticking behind her. There's almost some isometric going on here.
Yeah.
I see some God of War and Prince of Persia influence here. And of course the chuds are happy because there's boobs.
Raphael Michael says it's confirmed to not be a Souls game. More like a classic
it's definitely not a Souls
adventure.
game, but it is it looks very character action, which is just sort of, I'm over that too. But I don't know, the designs are cool, the look is cool, the setting is interesting.
It reminds me a little bit of Forspoken. That Square Enix action RPG that was
but there's part of me that's just like, can I just watch the movie or something? I don't feel like I'm gonna want to play this, but I would kind of like to see what happens.
It is pretty crazy how the developers in China are coming on strong, though, man. I feel like some of the studios there are doing a better job of making games look next gen.
Yeah. All right, it is the Shadowheart voice actor. I don't know Shadowheart sounded way more authentic. I don't know what's happening here.
I'm just the games coming out of China right now are kind of blowing my mind. While I wasn't a big fan of Black Myth Wukong, it looked amazing and it played very well. The subject matter just wasn't something I was all that interested in.
The visuals, they never disappoint on the visuals, and they pay a lot of, for whatever reason, all these Chinese developers pay a lot of attention to the thing that always bugs me with clothing clipping through it.
Right.
Like that rare, even looking at this, like that little like shoulder scarf is not clipping through the flowing robes off of her waist. Like that's remarkable.
It's a big
I love
deal.
that.
People
like,
don't understand how big of a deal that is, but it is. Yeah. It takes a lot of work.
Still not doing it. Like that's amazing. I love that. Like that's I can't believe that.
Well, so they show the debut trailer, and then they put out this 11-minute chunk of gameplay to be like, nope, it's not fake. Here's the game. And it looks just as good as a trailer. So China's coming on strong, man. Like, the East is starting to rise as far as game development.
And I'll tell you, I mean, the thing I really want is I'm waiting for the first game from one of these China devs that really does wuxia well. Because... You know, you can see the influence, obviously, whatever, but there's a lot more Devil May Cry in this than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
But at some point, someone's going to do like a legit wuxia hack and slash game, and that will be my shit, I hope. Because that's like no one's ever quite replicated that kind of combat right. And it's interesting the different like the different like crossovers that are starting to happen in terms of like style and presentation, because I don't know if you saw, like, there's a new
it sure looks like a Souls-like, by the way, watching the combat.
Doesn't look like Souls-like at all to me.
You don't think?
No, it's too flashy and too big and too dodgy. This is Devil May Cry.
Yeah,
pure Devil May Cry.
It feels like the timing your blocks and your parries are very important.
That's just Stellar Blade, though. That's all like parrying is just a standard of the, you know, I mean, that was really parrying in character action games was sort of defined by Bayonetta's Witch Time and the parrying in Devil May Cry 3.
Aravis Jones says, the clothing bugs me as a Brit. Ain't no Brit ever dressing like... Is he joking?
I don't know.
People are obviously from some other world. They're not British.
Someone named Gwendolyn is not from anywhere but England. You know that.
I mean, I don't think they're saying that people are walking down the streets of London with these get-ups on.
No, I mean, she would be very cold, but she's also magic, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, when the world ends, you can dress however you want. That's one of the few perks.
One of the only perks, really. So anyway, that is called Tides of Annihilation. It is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. We do not have a release date for it yet, but man, that was a pretty auspicious showing there for its first look. A great trailer, and then 11 minutes of in-engine gameplay. You don't see debuts like that very often anymore. So kudos to the studio. I think that game's looking pretty good. And then from here, things kind of fall off a little bit. Next up, we have the first official look at the new Shinobi. We got some glimpses at this. Sega put out that trailer that showed like 8 seconds of this like a year ago, along with Crazy Taxi and a couple other games. It's made by the Streets of Rage 4 team, which is great because that was probably your and I's favorite beat 'em up from the last... I don't know how many years.
Since Streets of Rage 3.
Pretty much.
A bit. I mean...
So the team has a pedigree, but this is very much like an indie game, basically. I would obviously...
It's very much like a Shinobi game.
Yeah.
This is Shinobi.
Yeah. I mean, but, you know, a lot of the old 2D franchises, they've made the jump to 3D.
So did Shinobi, but nobody cared.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm surprised.
I was going to ask you, do you think this is a smart move to keep it 2D like this?
I think so.
Yeah.
This is more, I think, where Shinobi has always shined. Like, I like the PlayStation 2 ones very much. I remain a little shocked that Sega hasn't ever remastered those.
Yeah.
Because I feel like...
But they're still solid games, yeah.
Yeah, I feel...
And a lot of these remasters are not.
And they're sort of like, I mean... I think Souls fans would find something to like in those games. They have a similar sort of unforgiving quality that rewards skill in a similar way.
I mean, if you're remaking Glover and Gex...
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fine point, sir. Yes.
It's time for the Shinobi remasters. So anyway...
I mean, Nightshade is really one of my favorite PS2 games, even though I'm actually not that good at it.
Yeah.
I just find it good. I've loved Shinobi forever. So
yeah.
Revenge of Shinobi is still one of my favorite games of all time.
Yep. It's a
and
classic
I love
for sure.
The Shinobi 2, Shinobi 3 references where he's surfboarding for a moment there. There's some if you're a hardcore Shinobi person, you see a lot of references.
There's some stuff. Yep, for sure. It is coming August 29th. It is coming to every platform, including Switch. Yeah. And that's always a caveat. Is it going to be on Switch? But yeah, it's coming to everything, again, on August 29th, 2025.
Yeah, this looks great. The only way you get me more excited is if you tell me Yuzo Koshiro's doing the music.
Okay. Which may be possible.
Maybe. We don't know yet.
Yep.
Probably not. But.
Yeah. Next up, a game called Metal Eden. This game actually looks pretty damn good, too. Not quite up to Tides of Annihilation, but for a smaller team, I was pretty impressed with this. This is from former CD Projekt, and again, we're talking about game from the former All-Star Studios. This one is made by former CD Projekt Red and Techland developers. It's a sci-fi.
You can see the Techland real.
Oh yeah, more than the CD Projekt Red.
Way more.
Yeah, for sure. It is a first-person shooter. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, and it's coming on May 6th, 2025. I mean, that is one thing that's cool about the state of play. Most of these games are coming in the pretty near future, even though they're third-party games or whatever. Most of them are not.
Although that Tides game feels like next year.
Yeah, they haven't announced anything about release date for that yet. But again, they did show an 11-minute chunk of gameplay, so that's gives you a little bit more hope that maybe it's not too far away. But yeah, this is just a sci-fi first-person shooter, but obviously it has a lot more because you have very special power, so it's not just a run-and-gun shooter. It's got a little bit of a different twist on it, a different angle to it, but I thought this game looked pretty good. No?
I'm going to get my shooter fix with Doom.
No, yeah, I think everybody's going to.
I don't know, but I didn't see when this
And you're right, this comes out May 6th, and doesn't Doom come out?
You're fucking sentenced to die, guys. Like, just push it till September or something.
My guess is they'll push it anyway. Like a new team, hitting a release date, that literally never happens. But we'll see.
But this close to that release date, you should know one.
Yeah, you would think. You would think it should be close, right? Yep. So anyway, again, it's called Metal Eden, and it's coming on May 6th, 2025 to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Next up, a game called Lost Soul Aside. We hadn't seen this for a while, but this one is also coming soon. It's launching on May 30th. Also, Matt, I'm sure you noticed, at least I think, it was the voice of Optimus Prime that voiced this trailer. Did you watch this trailer?
No.
I think it's the voice of Optimus Prime who voices it. It sounds like a dead ringer for him anyway. This is a PlayStation console exclusive. My guess is it'll probably also come to PC. It's coming May 30th, 2025. And basically it follows a young man who must rid the land of monsters using a magical crystal and a floating sidekick.
What's the name of it again?
Lost Soul Aside. He's got like a mag that follows him around a little bit like Phantasy Star Online. So you have like this little mechanical sidekick that follows you around throughout the game. But it is coming pretty soon. And honestly, they have not shared a ton about this game. So my guess is over the next couple months, we're just going to get inundated with updates on this game. But again, it is a PlayStation exclusive. At first when they announced it, I think it was also going to come to PS4. I think they may have dropped the PS4 version. I think it may be PS5 only at this point. So anyway, again, that's Lost Soul Aside. It is coming on May 30th. And let's see. Next up, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And a lot of people may not realize this, but the Sonic kart racing franchise is kind of diverted a while ago. When they first started, they were basically a blatant ripoff of Mario Kart. And then they kind of went their own direction for a couple entries. This one is going back to the old school style where it basically mimics Mario Kart. So as you're seeing in this trailer, you collect rings to increase your max speed. There's power-ups, and you're firing them at enemies and things like that. There's a network test beginning on February 21st, 2025, like in a couple days. You can go to Sega.com and sign up for that right now. I did. I'll see if I get in. They have not announced a release date yet, so we don't know exactly when it's coming. One thing, IGN got an exclusive...
It's very funny to me that there's been nothing on this series for years and years, and here they are putting it out the same years as Mario Kart.
Right.
Stupid.
It's so dumb.
And I like these games more than Mario Kart.
Oh, you do?
Totally. Like I think the levels are more interesting. I think I like the characters more because I'm a Sega fan. I just like these games more than the Mario Karts for the most part, and every single time they fuck themselves because they put them out too close to the Mario Kart. Because there's no delusion about whether, because this looks like the closest thing to Rift Apart that we've seen, like jumping from world to world in real time through the portals and stuff. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like there's not gonna be anything that cool in Mario Kart, but it's not gonna matter because Mario Kart automatically wins in the marketplace. So it's like, what, you could have done this at any time in the last 2 years, but you just didn't.
This franchise is better than you think, by the way. To Matt's point, it
100%,
is really good.
100%.
Yeah.
And this and that stupid tennis series they did with all the Sega characters.
Spin.
No, Sega Superstars Tennis.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was really good.
That's funny. So Matt kind of hinted at it, but the big twist for this is when you come around after you finish the first lap, if you're leading, when you come to the finish line after the first lap, you can choose which track you want to compete in for the second lap. So as the leader, you choose the portal that you go into, and then everybody has to race.
Go through that one,
which is really cool. And then for the third lap, they mix up the course that you just chose. So second lap, you choose a course, and for the third lap, they mix it up with elements that track that you chose for the third lap.
Mm-hmm.
So
which is a little bit like what's it? That's Split Second.
Mm-hmm.
Reminded me of that.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Yep. And it has like car customization. You're constantly like upgrading your carts with parts and things like that. I mean, it does look like a pretty damn good kart racing game.
I do like what does Sonic need with a car? The last time Sonic did a racing game on foot, it didn't go well.
No, it did not. That is a good point.
He was living in the city, and he knew he had to survive.
That is a good point, though. Why does Sonic need a car?
Go. Why does God need a spaceship? Go look up.
I didn't know God needed a spaceship.
Go look. Have you never seen Star Trek V? Then go look up Sonic R's soundtrack, and you get back to me on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we don't have a release date for this yet, but it's looking pretty darn good. You can also install gadgets onto the cards to give them buffs. There are modifiers that you can unlock that give you different options for choosing that second lap. There's a lot to this game. IGN was pretty impressed with it. One thing I will say is it did an exclusive preview of this game, and it said it could not find a real single player option in the code. As far as like a story mode where you play through a succession of races and things like that. Now, IGN caveated it by saying, like, maybe it just isn't in the code yet, but it wasn't there, so there was a little bit of a red flag going up about this game, but otherwise, I think it looks pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So again, a Sonic Racing Cross Worlds.
Vincent does know that this is not Sumo Digital.
It's not Sumo Digital?
No. Well, they're doing some other crap right now.
Oh.
They're on some other game where they're a support team, basically. I don't remember what game it was.
Well, was Sumo the studio that recently said that they're going back to being a support studio?
Yeah,
that they tried to do original games,
I think
and
so.
they're like,
they're the ones that made Transformed, and that was the really good one of this series.
Yep. Let's see, do we have any more for this state of play? Yeah, we have 2 more. Next up is a game called Hell Is Us. It's a This is a Souls-like for sure. The developers have promoted it as such. It's coming out on September 4th, 2025. But the difference with this one is it's a Souls-like that prioritizes exploration. So at this point, you got to try to find a unique angle for your Souls-like, even if it's something silly. For Hell Is Us, it is exploration. That's supposed to be the big thing that separates it from other games in the subgenre. I don't know. Does this look different than other Souls-likes? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it looks like it stars the guy from Watch Dogs 1.
And then the boy from, what is it? Not Christmas Vacation, from, what's his name with the Red Ryder BB gun?
Oh, from A Christmas Story?
Yeah, Christmas Story. That one kid at the beginning of the trailer looks like him. I mean, I will say, it looks like it's like a Division Souls-like with a little bit of sci-fi tossed in. It's like this weird semi-future militaristic with
Chat's saying this is confirmed to not be a Souls-like.
What?
That the developer said it's not.
That's the one note I have for this game. Third-person Souls-like.
Confirmed to not be a Souls-like, not punishing at all, difficulty options, etc.
Who's that coming
from? This is Raphael Michael.
I don't know, man. I took notes on all these games. That's the only note I got from this game. As far as like what the developers talked about. But again, the line is getting very blurry.
I mean, everything is influenced by Souls-likes at this point to some degree or another.
It's like what makes something a Souls-like or not a Souls-like.
Raphael Michael says, I know because I obsess over these Souls games because I hate them, and I look into them deeply because they look good. I mean, that makes sense if you don't want to get caught off guard that the thing you were interested in turns out to be a Souls-like and you hate Souls-likes. Yeah, I mean, then, sure.
It's a weird-looking game.
I mean, also, I'm close enough to saying I can disqualify something as not being a Souls-like if there's no stamina bar.
No, I think that might be a good determinant.
Yeah. Is
there a stamina bar or not? I mean, that's definitely one of the tenets of the subgenre, for sure.
But it's like everything uses the bonfire thing now.
Yeah. I always looked at it like, well, bonfires are another thing. Enemies that take huge amounts of health, that's another thing. Like, if an enemy can hit you 3 times and you die, that's another tenet of a Souls-like. Blocking or parrying, a big part of the combat, that's another one.
Somewhat. Like, I don't really parry that much in Souls-likes.
How do you keep from getting hit?
I just roll.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, parrying, rolling, blocking.
Well, that guy ain't rolling.
Yeah. So. They didn't actually show a lot of combat in that trailer to really kind of get a gist for it. But.
It's hard to really qualify a Souls-like when it's more ranged combat focused.
For sure.
I think the only one that has really done that to any great degree is Revenant. Is that what it was?
I don't remember. They all bleed together. They all look the same.
There's two of them. They just put out you like that one better, I think, than I thought you would, than I did.
I don't think it was Revenant.
Revenant 2 or something, where it was like the blood plague or something like that, and like it had seeds that turned the areas into what they were.
I don't remember. These games really bleed together for me. It's hard for me to, particularly when you start having China piling on.
Remnant.
Yeah, Remnant 2. Yeah. Yeah, I did like that more than you did. So anyway, that is called Hell Is Us. It's coming September 4th. It's also coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. To your point, Matt, this is a third-party bonanza. But where else are you going to show your games? 80 to 90% of the sales for every one of these games are going to come on PlayStation 5. It's a de facto.
Not that much. I mean, on consoles, yes. Yeah. But PC is more and more a chunk
it is doing it. I mean, PC surging for sure.
PC used to be like you could expect to sell 1/3 of what you sell on individual consoles.
Yeah.
It's more like 50 now.
Yeah.
It's getting up there.
And I think it's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
As well. And the final game we're going to talk about from the State of Play is Warriors Abyss. Everybody's doing roguelikes. Why not Dynasty Warriors?
I heard about this, and I was like, oh, that sounds like my shit. And then I saw it's a fucking vampire saviors thing.
Yeah.
Or it's not savior, whatever you know what I'm talking about. It was isometric. I thought it was going to be like a
typical Dynasty Warriors. Yeah.
Game. And then I was like, oh, that's not as interesting to me.
This game was debuted and launched at the same moment. It is already available. They announced it in the State of Play, and they're like, it's out there right now. And so you can go and play it right now if you want to. But it is basically just a Dynasty Warriors roguelite, where if you die, you retain some of your stuff, and then you go back and start the run all over again.
Hades has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, I think Hades will be okay.
Hades is fine, but look what you did.
Yeah, seriously. It feels like roguelite is like the new thing.
I guess I don't know who owns the rights anymore, but where is Gauntlet?
Oh, that's a good
Where
question.
is a gauntlet like this?
Right.
A Hades-style gauntlet?
I mean,
that seems real fucking obvious.
It really does.
But I don't remember who owns Atari's stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think Atari does. I think it's still retained a lot of its rights.
It's like the seventh owner of the Atari brand.
Atari owns Atari still.
Yeah, but it's like the seventh version of Atari or whatever.
Yeah. Apparently, Atari's doing great, though. Its financials for last year were like way better than they expected. So somehow
they knocked out of the park with that 50th anniversary collection.
Yeah.
Which a lot of the same people that made that Prince of Persia rematch.
No, you're right.
No, not Prince of Persia. Karateka. Made that Karateka thing, which is also great.
Yeah. That's Digital Eclipse, right?
Yeah. You left out my favorite thing.
Oh, really? What?
The Dave the Diver Yakuza
the DLC
crossover.
Well, so here's the thing, people. So we just went through like 15 or 16 games. You can see on my notes here. This whole paragraph right here, that's all stuff that was in the State of Play that we're not going to talk about specifically. We're just going to run through it very quickly because otherwise we could do a whole episode on the State of Play. So we already talked about Monster Hunter Wilds. First DLC for that was announced. They put a trailer
Warner
out for
Brothers owns Gauntlet. Wow.
Really?
Okay. That's what Farrell said.
Interesting. Stellar Blade DLC.
I've never seen that.
Yeah. Stellar Blade DLC with a new boss battle and a new outfit, of course. And then the PC version also is coming in June of 2025.
God, the mods on that.
Yep. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. They showed a new Digimon game called Digimon Story Time Stranger that looks like every other Digimon game that's ever been released. They showed off some of Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza, which is coming out very soon because there's a demo available. That was the big announcement. And then to your point, Ichiban's Holiday DLC for Dave the Diver, which is based on Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza.
No, it's not. It's based on Like a Dragon 7.
Oh, it is?
That's not Majima. That's the guy from the turn-based games.
I thought it was a crossover because it makes too much sense.
No, it's from Infinite Wealth. It's
okay,
Infinite Wealth.
Gotcha. It would have made more sense if it was Like a Dragon because they're on the 7 seas or whatever.
No, it is Like a Dragon, but it's Like a Dragon Infinite
Wealth.
Right,
but I mean Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza.
I think that was too recent. Also, they're all on the beach anyway.
Yeah,
and like the main pole seems to be not sailing, but like the side-scrolling beat 'em up thing, where he and the sushi chef guy. Is it sushi chef guy? Or is it just like a random dude? I think it's just a random dude. But there's like Streets of Rage levels now.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Interesting. Splitgate 2 is having an exclusive alpha on PlayStation 5 coming up. WWE 2K25, they showed off this new feature called The Island, which is basically the same exact thing as the Fight Hub in Street Fighter 6. It's just this area that you go into, and you can just fire off matches against other people there, which is something that's really cool with Street Fighter, and it's really smart for WWE. They showed a new Five Nights at Freddy's game called Secret of the Mimic. They showed a game called Darwin's Paradox from Konami, which is a 3D platformer where you play as an octopus who's trying to escape a food processing plant. They showed
anything but a Castlevania game, I guess.
Yep. They showed prequel DLC for Lies of P called Overture. That looks really good. I mean, I wasn't a fan of that game, but that DLC looks pretty awesome. And then the final game that they showed was a game called Dreams of Another, which is a collaboration between Pixel Junk and Q Games from Japan. Mm-hmm. And that's coming to PlayStation VR 2.
And that's where you create things by shooting it.
Yeah, which it really look. Actually, I probably should have brought the trailer for that. That looks cool.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's like is it voxel based?
Looks like it.
It might be. And you're basically like shooting a gun of voxels to fill in the world. Yeah. It's pretty freaking cool.
There's a big theme of like no creation without destruction.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't know if that is really what we need to hear right now, but okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, there you go. That was the state of play from PlayStation for February 2025. And I mentioned February 2025 because you don't usually see big stuff like this in February.
No, but usually we know more about the first half of the year.
Right. Yeah.
We would have had something like this in like November.
Yeah. So I watched this, and I was actually pretty impressed. I was like, wow, like that was a lot of games that looked pretty cool, and they're pretty diverse. They showed stuff from different genres, but then I went online, I saw people hated it. Mm-hmm. Because all the PlayStation fans, all they want is first-party PlayStation stuff. They don't care about it.
Well, you're not going to get that because Sony fucked that up.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to wait for Santa Monica to be ready for something, or you're going to...
Yeah, so you get Saros.
You're going to get that. You're going to go see Yote. That's not nothing. Sucker Punch is on the ball. But
it wasn't in there, and Death Stranding 2
I feel like that's
going
to get its own... I feel like those two games are going to get their own state of play.
Well, Death Stranding 2 is going to be at South by Southwest in March or April. He's doing a panel at South by, which is very Kojima. I'm going to roll into Austin for this big indie music festival.
The star fucking is out of control and has been for some time now. I mean, come on.
He'll get to go see a bunch of his favorite bands, his favorite indie bands. And I think that's going to be a big blowout for Death Stranding 2.
Hashtag SXSW.
Right. He's going to love it. That's right in Kojima's wheelhouse. So anyway, those two big games weren't shown. It just seemed like the PlayStation fans were pissed. But it's like... It was better than I expected.
What else do you need to see from those games?
I mean,
what else was there supposed to be?
I didn't expect to see these things that they were expecting. No. I thought it delivered, honestly.
What team is ready to show something?
Right.
I guess
which one?
You could get a CG trailer for whatever Sony Santa Monica is going to put out in 3 years.
Right.
But
what good's that going to do you? Really, what good does it do you? So what letter grade would you give this state of play?
It's like a B, B minus.
Me too. B minus. That's what I give it to. I thought it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, also, I'm guessing kind of because I didn't actually watch the whole thing as it happened. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of just catching up on the stuff I was interested in.
Yeah.
And in that regard, B.
I watched the whole thing from beginning to end and was taking a log of the whole thing. I was entertained the whole time. I thought the games looked interesting. B minus. I thought kind of hits it. So, Swan Senpai says, Shane, people just love to complain and be miserable. You're right, man. It really is sad. I don't understand it. It's like everybody lives to be miserable anymore. I don't get it. It's okay to enjoy something and have fun every once in a while. It really is. Just putting it out there. So anyway, there you go. That is the Sony State of Play for February 2025. Next up, we're going to talk about Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers is imploding. But Matt, I think ultimately it's to the good that Warner Brothers is imploding. So we talked in episode 420 about how Multiversus had been canceled and it's going to end in May or whatever. So that was kind of the first thing. And then the dominoes started falling after that story happened. And it all happened.
Still on the heels of Suicide Squad.
It all happened because of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Mm-hmm. Everything that is happening at Warner Brothers is because of this one game.
Because of the biggest miscalculation in the history of Warner Brothers Interactive.
It is insane what this game has done. But the good news is, Matt, I think the best news
of all... No creation without destruction.
Yeah, exactly. The best news of all, though, it has forced Warner Brothers to do the obvious, which is to get Rocksteady working on Batman Arkham games again. Mm-hmm. Hello? Imagine if they had put out 2 Batman Arkham games in the amount of time it took to put out Suicide Squad. How much better Warner Brothers would be off right now.
Yeah.
They'd be working on their 3rd Arkham game.
And maybe they'd be on a Justice League game by now
or
something.
Yeah.
Instead of killing them.
Right. It's insane. Not only that, David Haddad, who I will say is someone that Pachter has talked very positively about many, many times, is resigning. Because this is all his fault. They have no games. There are no games scheduled from Warner Brothers to come out for like the next 18 months.
Yep, because NetherRealm's got a...
Yeah.
They seem to have moved off of Mortal Kombat 1. I wonder how much of this was related to that.
I'm sure a good bit. They're like, look, man, you got to get that next game going.
Yeah, the DLC isn't moving the needle. We need to get a new release out of you.
Like, we need money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also trying to... I'm assuming they're still on the block to be bought. Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of devaluing of the company to make them a more attractive purchase.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to... I mean, Zaslav is a corporate raider, basically, as far as I can tell. Like, instantly just started selling stuff off for essentially insurance money. Yeah. I mean, they shelved the Batgirl movie that actually looked pretty good for the most part, and we're never going to see that. We're never going to see Coyote versus Acme. We're never going to see these... Like that Coyote versus Acme script was floating around off the blacklist for like 20 years.
Wow.
Like the original pitch for that goes back to right after the success of Roger Rabbit.
Wow.
Like that movie, I've been hearing about that movie since I was in high school.
I didn't know that actually.
It's just one of those things that that everybody knew there was some kind of pitch about that, and it just never caught fire, or it never got like greenlit, and it finally got made, and we're just never gonna fucking see it. And it's infuriating.
I mean, what's going to happen at Warner Brothers?
I mean, someone's going to eventually buy them, or they're going to sell stuff off piecemeal. Like, I have no idea if the plan would be to sell Warner Brothers as a giant unit, or to sell each division off like on its own. Like, would you sell DC Comics off to Marvel? like there's a non-zero chance that DC Comics gets sold as a unit to Disney.
Really?
Like that, there's no one else who'd want it.
Right.
Like that's
Who else
the thing.
would want to do something with? I mean, the IP obviously.
I mean, you'd have the IP of everything. It would be a hugely valuable thing, but very few people could afford it because again, you're not
or
just
afford to do something.
You're
with
not
it.
just selling a comic company. You're selling Batman.
Oh yeah,
and
all the
Superman.
IP. Yeah.
But the problem is that like Warner Brothers is almost worthless if it doesn't have Batman and Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not selling that on top with it, I don't know what you're selling Warner Brothers as.
I mean, you have Potter, you have the Hogwarts Legacy sequel, which...
right? But that licensing deal is going to expire if you sell a company, because every licensing deal then has to be reevaluated.
Right.
Everyone who's the licensors get to reevaluate whether they want to continue the deal with the new owner.
You're right.
So Rowling would get to decide whether she wants to keep that with the new owners or not.
She will, because all she cares about is money.
Maybe it depends who buys it. If she thinks she could get more money out of somebody else, and she probably could.
Yeah.
Like to renegotiate the Harry Potter deal now might look pretty attractive to her. In part because she doesn't seem to live in the same reality we do, and she might think that Harry Potter still matters and didn't just blow the fucking goat on 2 massive movies that were supposed to be a 5-part...
Right.
Or that was 3. Didn't they make 3 Fantastic Beasts? And they just didn't make the last 2 because no one gave a shit?
Well, she also doesn't get game development. She doesn't realize that Portkey Games is why that game made her so much money. They made a really, really good game.
Well, we still don't know what kind of money that game made her.
What did you say?
We still don't know what kind of money that game made her. It might have been a flat rate.
Yeah. That's a good point. It may not have been based on sales, in which case she doesn't care how good it is. But if it...
She clearly didn't have a lot of say over it because there's trans characters.
Right.
In it. So
Yeah.
I don't know how involved. I mean, she might just not give a shit. I mean,
it's money.
It's just more money.
Yeah.
A little more in the. I mean, it's probably a rounding error to her.
Yeah. And then the other thing that came out in the story, Matt, is that the other game that they have in development that was supposed to be the next in line to be released is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Jason Schreier who broke the news that that game is a disaster. Mm-hmm. It is $100 million in the hole, and they have no clue when the game's coming out. No clue. It's a disaster.
Shouldn't be that hard, really.
You have all this IP, and you have no games. I mean, Warner Brothers Interactive has tons of great IP. All the DC stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, they could have made games based on individual characters all along. How many times did we hear about a Superman game that was supposed to come out? Or whatever. Like, it feels like they just have not capitalized on what they had sitting in their lap all this time. So,
well, officially, we've never heard of Superman games coming out and never came out. Like, they've never admitted that any of that was in...
Well, I mean, there's been rumors and rumblings from reliable sources that there have been multiple Superman games in
I have
development.
never heard the Superman thing from a reliable source.
Really?
No. I don't think they were. I think they probably thought about it. I don't think there was ever anything in active development.
Yeah.
Making
Superman games is hard.
I talked to some people after my theory that, like, Suicide Squad takes place in Metropolis because they had Metropolis already built for a Superman game. That is not true. I do not think there was a Superman game ever in development at Rocksteady. I don't think there was a Superman.
So is this based on new information that you've been told?
I wouldn't call it new. It's from years ago. But, like, it's just not... I mean, I think everybody just assumes the Superman game is a lost cause because it would be so hard to balance it. Or
it really is.
They can feel like Superman.
Nobody can kill him.
So I have. I mean, the idea in the Superman Returns game did what I thought was the closest you could get. Is like the life bar was Metropolis. You had to protect the city.
Yeah.
The other way to do it is just make it so huge that no one fucking cares. They can't really. I mean, again, Superman can get knocked around. He can get knocked out. That happens to him on the cartoons all the time. The first season of Justice League, the cartoon, is just him constantly getting his ass kicked because the writers admitted that they decided that the best way to show a threat was a real threat was to have him beat Superman to death. And so they're like, we kind of ruined Superman in that first season. We're not going to do that anymore. But it's like, I've always had an idea in my head of a Superman game that is similar to Arkham. And the way you do it is at the very beginning of the game, he gets hit with some kind of crazy kryptonite ray blast, whatever thing, and has to go and gets buried under tons of shit. And you have to go through kind of like a cave underground base system to get out. And he has no powers, like he's because he's been hit by kryptonite.
Right.
And over the course of the tutorial, he slowly gets his abilities back. You know, you got heat rays, and they got those freeze breath, and they can be kind of like lower version. You know, oh, they're not at full power yet, so don't worry, but you'll get there. But at the very end, when you finally get out of the thing that comes out of the side of like the mountain or whatever, now you can get flight back, and you can finally take off and fly into the open space as the Superman theme starts, and you will never fucking think about his power levels again because any time you want to upgrade any of that over there, it's just like, oh, you're recovering from the kryptonite beam.
Yeah.
And like you've got the progression. You start them at a certain level. You get to teach everybody how this works. You get an excuse for on-ground combat and some air combat. And I think that would be the way you do it.
Okay.
So
I think that would work.
That's my pitch for a Superman game.
And it'll never happen.
No, of course
not. It really looks like Warner Brothers is in deep crap. Like, it really looks like they are prime for an acquisition at this point. And maybe that's their goal.
That is definitely the goal.
I mean, they've been trying to sell forever. For years.
Yeah. I mean, that is it's the strategy of you come in, you basically devalue it enough to make an attractive purchase.
David Haddad resigning makes me second guess it though, because if that was the plan, he would have been part of that plan.
No, he wouldn't be. He's not high enough to get a cut of that.
That's maybe. I'm not talking about a cut. I'm just saying being a part of the management team trying to lead Warner Brothers in that direction.
Well, no,
you have this big hole in the schedule.
No, you get rid of him because like he's the one who put you here.
Okay, you use him as a scapegoat.
Yeah. Like, he's the guy who made that. He's the guy who made the Suicide Squad decision. He's gone now. Don't worry about that.
I mean, that's a fireable offense.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, we don't know for sure that he was that much.
Just like whoever greenlit Concord should probably be fired.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think
but they probably won't be
because Sony's not trying to sell anybody.
It'll be the workers, the developers who get fired.
But in this case, it's like you want to make this thing look streamlined. Oh, we've solved that problem because we got rid of the guy who made that decision. So now it's going to be great from now on. You should totally buy us because Zaslav and the C-suite guys just want to get paid out and go do move on to whatever they're going to raid next, basically.
Yep. Threadzilla, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Appreciate it. See if there's any comments about this. Retro Modern Gamer says Warner Brothers has Monolith, who has made legendary shooters such as Blood and spy games Fear, Condemn, that have been stuck making Shadow of Mordor games. I mean, where are the Shadow of Mordor games?
Last Shadow of Mordor game was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and to his point, they're working on Wonder Woman, and that project's a disaster. So my guess is in the next 12 months, Warner Brothers is purchased by somebody. Sold.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but right
that's
now...
That's what they want.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, the thing is, they've worked so hard to devalue it to make it, a low enough price that someone would be able to buy it, but they've accidentally made Warner Brothers seem like a big loser.
Right.
Like who wants, and the choices are just, changing HBO Max to Mac. Like, HBO is one of the most valuable names in all of entertainment. And, what are you doing?
Dumb, dude. It's so dumb. So anyway, Warner Brothers is in deep doo-doo, but it may be doo-doo that they want. I guess is how we'll put it at the end.
But it doesn't. It's like it doesn't matter because no matter what you sell that company for, everyone's going to get paid out an obscene amount of money, and they don't need to worry about it anymore. They go back to making Discovery Channel about aliens again, whatever the hell they do. I don't know.
All right. Next up, we're going to talk about. Actually, we're not. Next up.
No, we're not. We're going to get drunk.
We are actually. I wish we were. Next up is a word from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Crémasse, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator,
head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. So, Matt, we haven't talked since the Super Bowl, but I was actually at a Super Bowl party literally like 2 blocks from here. As it ended up, like my buddy from Philly, the EDM DJ agent, rented a mansion like a couple blocks from here to have a big Super Bowl party. And I took a bottle of LS Cream to the Super Bowl party. And when I got there, again, these are all rich people. And they had like caterers and bars. And we ended up finding a space outside to watch the game where all like the real Philly people were. And there was like a bar right next to us or whatever. And so I just went up to the bar and I just said, hey, like, would you mind if I put this under the bar so I could have you mix me drinks with it? And she's like, no, not at all. And so I did that. I was drinking all day, watching the game, drinking LS Cream. And then at the end of the thing, I went to go get it back because I was like, you know, it's mine, 1, and 2, you probably don't want it because this isn't a part of your normal repertoire. And she mixed herself a drink with it and was like, I want to try this stuff because I had talked to her about it and said, you know, we do a podcast and our sponsors, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, now that I'm off the clock, I want to make a drink with it. And she made a drink with it, drank it, and was like, this is delicious. And she's like, I'm going to push my boss to stock LS Cream on all our special events like this going forward. So I think I just sold some LS Cream to a company in LA that does parties for bougie people all over the city. And that's big because that means bougie people, rich people are going to be exposed to LS Cream. So I don't know if you get a call, Stevens Charles, from some of these people. I gave them your contact information. She loved it, and that's what she does for a living. So I don't know what more.
Yeah, let's get these drinks into the hands of the Kardashians.
Seriously. I mean, that's when stuff starts to go like nuclear. So anyway, I hope it all works out the sales for you guys, but I think I may have done something pretty big for LS Cream on Super Bowl Sunday. We'll see how it goes. But she loved it. And she was just like, wow. She's like, I see why you kept making your drinks with this all day. And then my wife was making drinks with LS Cream as well. She loves it too. So anyway, if you need further proof of just how good LS Cream is, there you go. Go to creamls.com/sifted. You can get a bottle locally there. There's a store locator. You can get it shipped to you if you go to the website. The website's awesome. There's great drink recipes and all this awesome stuff there. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Okay, and now it's time to talk about Not E3 2025. Or I'm sorry, is that next?
Yeah.
Yes. It was reported this week from a reliable source, Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb, that PlayStation is considering bailing completely on Not E3, Summer Game Fest, whatever you want to call it, that it is contemplating not being a part of it at all. And as we've said on this show,
character,
right? And they were the first to leave E3 in the first place. And as we've
EA was the first.
Yeah, because EA went to Hollywood. It's still a part of E3,
but it wasn't on the floor.
But it wasn't on
anymore.
site. Yeah, you're right. They gave up their booth, so you're right. They were the first big one to leave the building, but they were still a part of E3.
And that's a fun story that I can't tell on the air.
Yep. So anyway, Jeff Grubb is reporting that PlayStation is considering completely bailing. And to our point we actually been talking about this for the last couple months, is the fact that PlayStation is just kind of like the video game console now. Because Xbox has left that market. Nintendo's doing its own thing with its own customers. I mean, it's like we just talked about with the State of Play. Like you watch State of Play, that's kind of like pre-E3 right there because all the third parties are going to put their stuff in PlayStation's events. So if there is no PlayStation event, does that just mean that Jeff's thing is all the more awesome? Does it really change anything if they're not there?
I don't know if all the more awesome is the right description. I mean, it just means that Sony knows that they're the ones calling the shots. Like, you remember the HD era is begins when we say it does.
That's true. Yeah.
E3 happens when we say it does.
Yeah,
is really what's happening.
You may be right. Because here's the thing. So that state of play.
Because even the people that go on Jeff's show are going to be talking about games that people are mostly going to play on PlayStation.
You're right.
So
yeah, I mean, we talk about how PlayStation is kind of the video game console now. It's like if they're not at an event, is it an event?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, you got the third party still.
I mean, Jeff would be flooded with stuff for his presser,
but
for
that's
sure.
It's kind of the point, isn't it? Like, even if Sony doesn't show up to any of this not E3 stuff, PlayStation will still be a presence.
Yeah.
Because everything is on PlayStation. Sony doesn't need to do anything. They don't need to lift a finger for PlayStation to be promoted in all these trailers and all these discussions and interviews, and then Sony can do their own state of play whenever the hell they want and have all the bandwidth themselves and all the press themselves at any time.
We talk about how PlayStation doesn't need an event because it can make its own event, but to be fair, like the Saros trailer has only done like 370,000 views.
Yeah, but also that's because people don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it
ain't
not no Naughty Dog game.
Yeah, but they're not infallible. Like, Sony can't just do whatever it wants and count on 10 million people watching.
Right, but I don't think that really matters.
No.
Like, it won't matter by the time, that comes out.
It might matter for games like Intergalactic. They're going to have a big push. They spent a lot of money on, but their new IP.
Intergalactic's trailer did very well.
Yeah, I think it did, 800K or something?
Yeah, well, it's more than that now.
Now,
obviously.
Yeah.
But also, that wasn't Sony, was it? That was...
Intergalactic?
It was Game Awards.
Right. But I'm just But yeah, that's a good point. Actually, they did have that.
Weird
big
that
audience
150 million people watched that, and only 800,000 decided to go see the Intergalactic trailer later.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point.
Not a great conversion rate there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
What do you think it would do if people knew that PlayStation wasn't a part of SGF, not E3? Do you think it affects the viewership for the stuff that does happen? Because do you think people will tune out and be like, well, Sony's not going to be there, so...
I mean, I don't know if you've got half the United States population doing that, but it's like, I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's going to make a difference.
That's freaking great. I don't either, Matt. I think, honestly, it won't make that much of a difference in the end.
I mean, SGF, all due respect, ain't the Game Awards.
Yeah.
The Game Awards are kind of different because it's right before the holidays. Everybody's thinking about the end of the year. Everybody wants to know what's happening next year. Like, there's kind of established traditions, like, we're gonna have this ridiculous...
There's when EA was still at E3 right there. You see that?
Pre-show where we give away the awards nobody cares about. We're gonna do, the guy who makes Split Fiction is gonna say some crazy stuff and say the F-bomb on air. There's just there's gonna be an embarrassing Muppet thing. Like, it's just there's traditions established.
Yeah.
Name me a tradition from the Summer Games Festival.
Yeah.
Other than happening in June.
Slagathor says, I think this also means that Sony still won't have enough first-party games in 4 months from now. I agree with you a million percent,
100%.
Slagathor. 1,000,000%. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I doubt they'll have anything particularly different to show then as they just did.
Because Kojima's doing South by Southwest for Death Stranding 2. I mean, you still have Ghost of Yotei that you could maybe blow out there, but
again,
to your point, I think they'll do their own thing for that too.
They'll do their own thing. They'll probably do it like August when it's closer to release date, which I think it really looks like that's going to be their kind of anchor for the early fall, I think.
It's crazy seeing this B-roll of E3 2015 before it all started going south. Seeing EA on the floor, Activision on the floor, seeing this for Capcom. Like, even at the end, it wasn't like this anymore.
No, it wasn't. It was.
This was a time.
The floor. There was that last one. I remember I finally went on the floor, and it was just sort of like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah,
there's nobody here.
There's no one here.
Like,
yep. E3 2015.
There was honestly no reason to be on the floor if you weren't like there for an appointment for a large, unless you're going to the Nintendo booth. Like, there wasn't much and that's the other thing was like there wasn't really a whole lot for a random non-industry attendee to do.
Yeah.
Like, you could go to the Nintendo booth, you could try to get in the Fortnite booth, and that's
pretty much
now,
it.
To be fair, that would take you all day to do those two things as the lines. The lines were very long.
That's day one, yeah.
But for the most part, it just kind of walking around. I mean, we would kind of go and stand around. Mm-hmm. There was nothing there, and then we just go back to the bar across the street.
Yeah. So I tend to agree with you, Matt. I don't think Sony not attending SGF, not E3, whatever the hell you want to call it, is that big of a deal. I don't think it will impact much. It might hurt Jeff's viewership a little bit. Like 5% maybe.
I mean, it depends, I think, if he says there won't be any Sony at this.
Yeah. People may actually tune in more thinking maybe something Sony will be there.
Yeah, the smart... I mean, again, I guess I don't know if the smart move is to say nothing because maybe then just people are mad that they're disappointed. But, like, I don't know. Like, who cares? Like, there'll be plenty... It's like there's going to be 4,000 weird little indie things you never heard of and will never think of again until they come out. And, like, probably 3 or 4 big anchor games. And take care. You know, I don't know. I don't know what you get for the Summer Games Fest at this point. Like, if it was the Game Awards, I could almost see some kind of extra Switch 2 thing. But, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. It might be out by then.
I mean, that could be the thing, too, is that Switch 2 could just totally dominate.
Yeah, if that's around
Summer
the
Game
release
Fest
time.
Naughty
like,
3.
Yeah, or if you can get anything on Nintendo. You know. I mean, maybe. It's hard to say.
Yeah. It's kind of up in the air.
It's all up to Doug Bowser and
it really is.
What
more
Japan
like
wants
Japan
to do.
Furukawa and crew. But anyway, it's looking like PlayStation's not going to be there. Jeff Grubb is an extremely reliable source. I can't think of too many things he's ever broken that did not come
If
true.
he says that, I believe it.
I believe it too. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And maybe will you guys lose interest in Naughty 3 SGF if you don't think PlayStation's going to have a big presence there?
Like, what am I going to see there? What was I expecting to see? Wolverine? Not really. Like,
Erebus...
Wolverine's late next year if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Ghost of Yotei is going to come out when it comes out. It's fine. It's sometime Death Stranding. I don't care. We've already seen Saros. Like, Saros seems far enough out that expecting something new in June is just sort of silly. Marathon. I mean, I guess Marathon would be the main thing you would expect to be shown around that time.
Or maybe the first gameplay of Intergalactic.
Intergalactic's so far out.
Yeah.
It's way further out than I think anybody believes.
Yeah. That's a shame because we need some games.
Because I'll just say right straight up, Intergalactic's a PS6 game.
You think so?
I think so.
Or a bridge game at least?
Yeah, I think it'll be on both for sure. But if we're lucky, it is a PS6 launch.
That's pathetic that Naughty Dog never delivered a PlayStation 5 game. Think about that. They missed an entire generation.
Maybe it will be sooner than I think. Then
I hope so, man.
Just so they can have something on PS5 that isn't a remake or remaster.
Erebus says it's a nothing burger until they've got something to sell and then still don't take part. Okay. Cinetike says, I just care if it has good games no matter the publisher.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
don't really care whether they
I think we all feel that way. Swan Senpai says, unless I have to for work, I just don't care about these events. Okay.
I agree.
And then Vincent says Jeff Grubb is saying Marathon is going to be shown at its own event this spring.
All right.
So, yeah. What's left?
I mean, Sony wanting to control its own narrative without being beholden to weird, like, arbitrary event things is very Sony. Like, that's been their philosophy since they pulled out of E3 in the first place. So, yeah, doesn't surprise me.
You see today that Shuhei Yoshida said that Jim Ryan forced him out? Told him to either take a demotion and work on indie games or leave PlayStation.
Ooh. Why? What happened?
I've been hearing some things about Jim Ryan lately that are not very flattering.
But why would you target?
They're hearsay, so I'm not going to say them here on the show.
Why would you target Shuhei Yoshida that way? Like, why would you? Like, what's the benefit of doing that?
I don't want to get into it. I've been hearing some stuff that's a little off-putting. I'll just put it that way about Jim Ryan and PlayStation over the last few years of his tenure. But I can't confirm it. It's all hearsay, so I'm not going to say it publicly. And I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, I tend to agree with you. I think it's a nothing burger. I don't think it's going to have a big impact on anything. I think it may hurt Jeff's show 5% audience, something like that. Mitchell Ness says, do we really think Intergalactic is the next Naughty Dog game? I mean, yeah, because it's the only one they've shown. Yeah.
The show has a long way to go before it catches up.
It does. Yep, we're going to actually... That's true. It's a long way to go. Although we just learned that they're going to try to stretch The Last of Us Part 2 into 3 seasons.
4 seasons.
No, there will be 4 seasons total.
Yeah.
They did 1 season for the first game, and now they're going to try to stretch the second game into 3 seasons.
To be fair, I think that's pretty easy to do.
I can think of break points, absolutely. I also think, though, the first season, you're not going to have the big revelation, the big moment. It'll probably happen in season 2 or at the end of season 1, maybe.
I disagree.
Really? You think it'll happen in season 1?
100%.
Really? Do you know something?
In a sense.
Okay.
Because I know how long Pedro Pascal shot in that, and it was not long enough to be in the whole season.
Okay. There you go. That's all
I think if you judiciously use flashbacks and parallel timeline, you could easily take up 3 seasons.
I mean, you can stretch almost anything into 3 seasons.
Not stretching, though. Just being able to tell these things without having the benefit of being in the gameplay.
Having a rush. And...
I think you can. I
mean, you can do that one episode where it's just like a whole episode based on some little tiny part of the game.
But you don't even need that. You do not need that. You have episodes that establish what the town. What's the town name?
I don't know.
Tommy's Town in Denver.
Tommy Town.
The Hoover Dam Town. Whatever. He establishes life there and does all that stuff and et cetera, and then you work up to the big moment. You have another second season can the big moment. That necessarily isn't even the end of the first season. You can have a lot of the stuff that ends up with them going up to Seattle. You can have a lot of the big finale of that could even be in there. There's other moments you could stop it. You have the backstory of the entire of Lev and that whole Splinter group.
Yeah.
You could go into more detail about how they left that group, and like that could be a parallel story. Abby's parallel story. The story after that where she gets... So
there's going to be a whole episode just for Abby, where they show who she is, where she came
half
from.
A season.
No, 100%. I mean just one that's just her origin story, where she came from, how she got there, how she became ripped, all that.
Well, she's not ripped in this show, really.
Yeah, I know, which is a little weird, I thought.
I think you can easily do a lot of, and you can expand things. The best episode of the first season had nothing to do with anything in the game.
That was my point.
It was the
they just took a very small part of the game and made a whole episode.
A whole episode about Lev and the origins of him and and that group and who that group. We never really saw who those people were.
No, you're right.
And you could flesh that out. You can flesh out the fireflies everywhere. You could there's a lot of different things you can do with that could easily take up 3 seasons where you're doing like 8 to 10 episodes. No problem. And not everything has to be an hour.
Yeah.
I can easily see them doing that, and it could take them well more than 3 years to do that, which gives them enough time to make Last of Us 3 before they have to worry about adapting it into the show.
Yeah. Okay.
Druckmann is so involved in the show that I'm sure he has a schedule in his head for how all this is going to go.
Well, he said, actually, one of his quotes this week was that, like, what did he say? I'm not smart enough to plan for a sequel. There was some, like, self-deprecating quote.
Give me a break.
It's a joke, dude. I was like, come on, man.
The man is one of the most calculating people in all of gaming.
I was like, whatever, dude.
Dude, you alpha dogged your way into running Naughty Dog, and then you turned that into a film directing career.
Then you try to say that, like...
Come on.
I was like, okay, buddy.
Take credit for the Machiavellian successes you have achieved.
Seriously.
Because it's not like anyone can argue you aren't good at what you do.
Right.
You know? Like, there's no... you got to step on some people to get somewhere in show business. And, like, if he wants to basically do Last of Us 3 and then become a film director or a TV show director, he clearly has earned his way to that.
Yeah.
Like, he did a really good job with that episode. I'm sure he'll do another really good job with whatever episode he directs in the new season. Mm-hmm. And, like... You can't really get a better pedigree than being trained by the Chernobyl guy how to fucking make television. It's like you need someone else to do show run your boutique TV series, your prestige TV series. Here's Neil Druckmann.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay. Let's move on to our last topic.
And I imagine even making really high-end TV shows is a lot more rewarding and less life-ruining than working on video games in crunch time forever.
Yeah, that's true. So our last topic for episode 421 are updates on Grand Theft Auto 6, obviously the most anticipated game, still scheduled to come out this year. Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, did the rounds this week. He went on every podcast, talk show, CNBC. And Matt, one thing I will say, he went on CNBC, and CNBC tried to pull the whole, is Grand Theft Auto 6 going to cause people to go out in the streets and be violent BS?
Yeah.
And he was not having it, man.
No.
He was just like, really? Are we talking about this again? He's like, there have been countless studies that have proven there's no... He had to go through the whole thing.
Did that happen? No.
No, it's never happened. It's never happened. But, these dumb suburban people that are hosting these shows...
He's like, that car chase from L.A., that looks so much like GTA. Yeah, because that's what GTA is based on.
Yeah, it's like parodying.
That didn't start happening when GTA 3 came out. GTA 3 exists because that shit happens.
Yeah.
Like it's trying to replicate the ridiculousness of car chase, all that,
Well, like right now in this trailer, they show the takeover things.
Right now we are looking at footage recreated from existing internet footage of things. Like this is not That woman is a real person from a TikTok. Like, that is not... no one's replicating... GTA is replicating
life.
us.
I know. It's pathetic.
That's what satire is, you
pathetic.
fucking moron.
I watching that interview, my blood was just boiling. I'm like, really? It's 2025 and we're doing this still?
I don't even think GTA's good satire, but, like, come on.
I know, man. I know. It's insane. But he had to deal with it. And so props to you, Strauss Zelnick,
for me to defend
swatting
GTA?
the morons away. He did a great job. But he also divulged a bunch of stuff this week about GTA 6. The first one that's kind of come out over the last couple days is that a PC version is definitely on the way. We kind of assumed that. Yeah. But
the question is how long after.
Right. And what they're saying is like the first half of 2026.
All right.
Which for Rockstar, that's really expediting things for Rockstar.
I mean, you expect a year or 2 years.
Yeah. So they're saying first half of 2026, according to multiple sources. Grand Theft Auto 6 on PC before halfway through 2026, which is a big deal. Strauss Zelnick also said that Trump's tariffs could screw up literally everything. Could screw up them because they need to get the games manufactured. Another thing that Strauss talked about was how Rockstar and Take-Two are going to support Switch 2 way more than they ever have. He made some statement about how we finally accepted Nintendo isn't a platform just for kids. You can, and my guess is you're going to see Red Dead Redemption 2 for Switch 2. Like, I don't think you're going to see GTA 6 for a while on Switch 2, if ever.
No, but I do think you're going to see pretty much all of Rockstar's back catalog.
You'll see GTA 5, you'll see Red Dead 2, all that stuff is going to come to Switch 2, guaranteed. So he talked about that, but he mentioned, like, in the midst of all that, the tariffs could totally screw up Nintendo's launch and could really hurt Switch 2 as far as its first year of availability and into the future if the tariffs aren't lifted eventually.
If the tariffs are in place when the Switch 2 comes out, you're looking at probably $600 for that thing.
Now, Nintendo, for its part this week, said that it is preparing for, in case these dumbass tariffs actually happen, it's going to shift production of Switch 2 to Vietnam and Cambodia. So it's going to have to tear up all its production lines in China and move them and set them up in Vietnam. It's just insane. So anyway, he talked about the tariffs, and that really ripped the CNBC people because, they're all in the bag because they're rich. So they don't care. They're like, I don't care about these tariffs. I just want tax cuts. So here you are talking about you're going to scare them all. Like, it's just, watching it literally made my blood boil. Anyway, he handled himself exceptionally well on CNBC. I'll just say that. Way better than I would have.
Mike's Q, that is not how tariffs work. A 10% tariff is going to boost the price of something at retail by 25 to 40%.
Yeah.
If it gets to be a 50% tariff, which is what he originally proposed,
forget it.
Forget it. You couldn't do it. And as a matter of fact, yesterday, the first board game canceled for U.S. release because the publisher can't see a way to get around the tariffs of importing it. They're not going to be able to sell it for a retail price that's going to be reasonable for what it is, that will still make them a profit.
A PC manufacturer today announced that it is already increasing its products by 10% because of the tariffs. So he also said AI is BS and that it will never replace. He said everything right. He said AI is BS. It'll never replace the creative element that humans provide. The AI will be able to make menial tasks cheaper to perform, but creative tasks, it'll never be able to replace humans.
I agree.
He said that the only annual game should be sports games.
He's got a point.
He nails everything. Again, he pledged...
Every time I see some new thing, someone saying, like, Hollywood's in trouble, look what AI can do. And it's a bunch of, like, slow-motion, blank-faced screensavers.
With eight fingers.
With no... No, the fingers are pretty much fixed now.
Oh, really?
It's just there's no purpose. There's no creativity. There's no storyline. Even when they're kind of cutting them together to try to make something, everything moves at the same pace. The camera angles are never chosen for any reason. Like, it's just a bunch of screensavers.
Yeah.
It's never going to amount to anything because you cannot create creativity through math.
No, you can't. He also said that he's not concerned about poor Xbox console sales. He said that GTA 6 is going to boost console sales and they'll be fine. I agree with him on that as well. And then maybe the biggest thing that was kind of divulged by him, but not 100%, people asked him about what was going to happen with GTA Online. And they're like, well, what's going to happen? Are you going to launch a new GTA Online for Grand Theft Auto 6? Is it going to continue from GTA 5? And he said, we tend to let our old products exist alongside the new products. So, translation, Grand Theft Auto Online the old one is going to stay with Grand Theft Auto 5, and they're probably launching a new one for Grand Theft Auto 6, and both of them are going to live together simultaneously. So, honestly, pretty much everything he said this week was like, ding, 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 you effing get it. I mean, Take-Two stock is exploding. It's at like $200 and some a share, and for good reason. Take-Two has a really, really good leader, I believe. Strauss Zelnick is, I believe, probably the best CEO in gaming right now. Take-Two doesn't have that much, if you think about it. And look at their financials. They're killing it. So I think that they figured out the best way to manage, like, bolting on, like, a game as a service to an existing single-player game.
Well, it makes sense that, like, you know, if your new GTA Online takes place in Florida, why would you get rid of the California one?
Right.
Because some people are going to want to do one, some people want to do the other, some people want to do both.
A lot of people were concerned that all the money that they had spent in the original GTA Online was just going to be wiped away. And that it sounds like that is not going to be the case. So I think so far, it feels like they're handling everything the right way with Grand Theft Auto 6.
I wonder if eventually they will add some kind of cross-play where you can have a character in both.
Maybe. That could be possible, but tricky.
Tricky. I mean, you have these superpowered characters showing up in Florida all of a sudden. But it'd be fun to turn that into something like you do, like the Californication expansion, for
and have some fun way to like make it work. Yeah, I mean, it's Rockstar.
And like really get the people who have been playing the online of 6 to like hate the GTA 5 players coming in.
That can make it work for sure.
That's satire.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's like breaking the fourth wall is satire.
Yeah. That's like you don't get to do the satire in the actual gameplay of the online game all that often, but I think that would do it.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are the latest updates on Grand Theft Auto 6 and how it's all going to work with GTA Online and Grand Theft Auto 5. I think as of right now, I think they're handling everything the right way. That's going to make the most fans most happy, I would say. But anyway, that's the latest updates. And obviously, any information we ever get about Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to appear right here in GameFace because we know it is probably, let's be honest, the biggest video game to ever release. Is that a fair statement?
Sure.
Yeah. So we know you guys are into it. We're into it. And hopefully the clock is counting down here. We don't have that much more time until we start playing it. We'll see how that goes. All right. And we have one last thing to do before we go. And that, of course, is... That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune. Sponsored by Soundwizardry.com. Soundwizard, I believe, was in chat. I don't know if he's still there. Maybe he had to leave. He had other stuff he had to do. But this is a fun game that we play that they sponsor. And one thing I do want to mention before we get going is that Soundwizardry, specifically wanted me to mention before Name That Game Tune that please go and support Marcus Beer and his wife in recovery from the LA wildfires. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, down in the description, there is a link that will take you straight to their GoFundMe. Even if you give them $1, all of it makes a difference. I mean, this just shows you, though, what kind of person the leader of Soundwizardry.com is. That he's like, I'm going to sponsor GameFace, but I want to make sure that you mention Marcus and his wife's GoFundMe before you actually do Name That Game Tune. So that's what we're doing. If you're on Sifted, we have published that link I don't know how many times on the website. If you need it again, I can put it down in the comments of this episode again. But really, it's for our YouTube audience. It is bigger. And so, again, go in the description below. There's a link to contribute to their GoFundMe. Please do it. They are very, very close to their goal. Let's try to get them over the top. And again, it's awesome that the crew at Soundwizardry.com wants to sponsor this and get them over the top for what they need because they have to rebuild their house. That's going to take like 3 years. They still can't even go to their land because it's like toxic. They're allowed to go there for like little windows, but they can't like hang out there. So anyway, it's a long road. It looks like Vincent... I don't know what Vincent just posted in the chat.
That is quite a URL.
I'm not sure. Well, there you go. Thank you, Vincent. Vincent has just posted the link to their GoFundMe in the chat right now. So if you can click that, go give them $1, whatever. If you're rich, give them a bunch. But even $1 can make a big difference for Marcus and his wife. They're rebuilding everything. They lost everything. Imagine that. Imagine you wake up one day, You have everything. You have your house, your car, all your stuff you've collected throughout your entire life, and you wake up the next morning and it is all gone. It was interesting watching Marcus go from the shock and denial stage into the realization portion of it. They're doing okay, but it's hard, man. I mean, just think about it. It's like your whole life is just wiped away. All your memories, these objects that you have that make you remember your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or your grandma, all that stuff's gone. I can't even put into words what they're going through right now. So anyway, if you can help, please go help them. And thanks to Soundwizardry.com for making sure that we mention that. Now, here comes the fun part. Let's play Name That Game Tune, where I play 5 samples from a video game. It could be a sound effect, it could be voiceover, it could be a song from the soundtrack, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt Keil here. Now, last week, it was a tight one. After the running joke, week before last, but the running joke that we had going for a long time with Body Harvest finally came to fruition. Barely, he beat you. Literally by like a fraction of a second he got in.
I believe he typed that before I said it.
I do too. I believe 100%.
Just because of the lag on the chat.
Yeah, so the right person did win finally for that. But this week, it's all different. There's no running gag for this week's episode. So anyway, I'm going to play 5 samples. You try to guess the name of the game. A couple things before we get going. If you've won already this year, do not play. You can only win once per calendar year. And yes, that counts for the normal Name That Game where we use screenshots. You can only win Name That Game, whether it's tune or screenshot, once per year. If you don't play PC games, please do not play, because if you win, you get a PC game. People who win this get stuff, which is kind of awesome. So again, make sure that you are a PC player or you know somebody who likes PC games you can give the code to. And then finally, the chat goes into slow mode, which means you can only enter one chat every 60 seconds. Don't spam the chat with game titles. You will not win, I promise you. All right, Matt, let me turn up your headphones here so you can hear. Are you ready to play Name That Game?
Yeah.
Are you ready to play Name That Game tune? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go. I'll play it twice because it's short. Here it is again. Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. There's the other running joke, actually. That's another one. Yeah. No, that's not it. Pillars of Eternity, no. Kingdoms of Amalur, no. Red Dead Redemption 2, no. Killzone 2, no. Also, by the way, go to Soundwizardry.com if you have any sound needs. If you're making a game, if you're working on a project where you need sound, he's your guy. They're your people. Oh, nope. Dishonored, no. RE4, no. Last of Us, no. Grim Fandango, no. Fable, no.
Last of Us Part 2.
Yep. Yep, that is it. Matt has won Name That Game tune. There's an applause for Matt. Maybe we shouldn't let you play anymore. You're pretty good at this, man.
I'm good at the sound.
Yeah. Maybe we should let just everybody else play instead of playing against you.
We could do that.
Give us your feedback. If you'd rather just play amongst yourselves and not let Matt win.
I would still do it. Maybe I just do it and just say it. I know it when I know it.
Well, here's the thing. This was supposed to be the one for last week. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing about The Last of Us in last week's episode. There wasn't going to be. And then this week, I'm like, well, I can just use the Name That Game tune from last week. And then I didn't realize that one of the topics in this week was how HBO is going to stretch it out. So we kind of...
Also, to be fair, I partly knew because you reacted to him saying Last of Us.
Yeah, that did tip it off. I know. I screwed that up for sure. Here's the second sound effect. I'll play it again for you, Matt.
Yeah. Healing.
Yep. Here's the third one.
Yeah.
The gunsmith, right? Is that the third one?
No, it's like it's infected.
Oh, okay. Okay. Here's the fourth one. One of them is a gunsmith.
That's the gunsmith.
Okay. And I made that fourth because that's it. That will give it away like right away. Yeah, all that little stuff, and then here's the last one.
Fuck it.
So there you go. There's Name That Game tune. Unfortunately, Matt took the victory this week. Again, you can put it in the comments here if you want to, or in the archive at sifted.net, or in the archive on YouTube. If you'd rather just play amongst yourselves and not have Matt involved, that's totally fine. It's kind of fun to get Matt involved, but I want you guys to win, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. So if you guys were interested in that, just let me know. The Legacy, thank you for getting in with Twitch Prime. MySQ says you spilled the beans, Shane. I kind of did, honestly. But nobody else picked up on it. Nobody else answered like Last of Us Part 2. I was waiting. I'm like, oh, here comes.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was like, okay, someone's going to get that. And like, nope. Okay.
It didn't happen. So I am a little surprised that they didn't get it, because you're right. I did totally ruin it and spoil it. My apologies, people. I want you guys to win. And a big thanks to Soundwizardry.com again for sponsoring Name That Game Tune. They're just awesome in particular. Like, they do great work. They've worked on like 5 Game of the Year nominees and winners or whatever. Like, they do awesome work, but they're really just awesome people. Like, I know I've partnered with people to work on stuff, and it's like, they have benefit, like, oh, they can bring audience or whatever, but none of that stuff really matters if they're jerks to work with. And the people at Soundwizardry, they've been actually helping me since we launched Sifted. Like, he reached out to me like the first couple years and was like, hey, there's an audio problem in this show. We can remove the static. Like, they are just awesome people. If you want to work with awesome people, you have an audio project of any type, go to soundwizardry.com. They're awesome. Great people, great company. They do great work. So that's it. Don't forget, though, that obviously now that we're shutting down here, we're going to do 2 live reviews and a preview. So you'll be able to look forward to that rolling out across the next few days after the show goes live. I know, first of all, I'll just say before we go, this is working out great for us. We literally tripled the number of ad views from the first week that we did this for our content. So versus just running this stuff in GameFace, it's like doubled revenue doing it this way. So I think you guys like it too, because let's be honest, the content's way better. It looks way better. It sounds way better. Everything's way better than just doing it in GameFace. So I think ultimately everything's worked out pretty well as far as how we're doing things a new way. You guys like it, we like it, and I think the content's better. So thanks to everybody for all your support. Thanks to all our patrons. We appreciate you guys very much. Have yourselves an awesome week. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.